Good evening, and may the 4th be with you. Tonight, I'm going to do a Star Wars tier list. I have done a tier list one previous time on the channel a few years ago. It's in my history if you want to look it up. Tier lists are not a thing that is easy to put together unless you use the pre-made templates. So I'm not doing the tier list that I was actually planning to do, which was Star Wars Planets, because it's a lot of work to put one of these together. And like I said, I was looking for a pre-made for tonight because I had a lot of stuff I had to get done this afternoon. And so I'm doing a character tier list instead. You've probably seen by now, if you're into Star Wars and you're into tier lists, you've probably already watched dozens of character tier lists. And chances are you've probably never seen a planetary tier list because apparently nobody does those. So I'm still planning to do the planetary tier list. It's just that since it's going to take me time to put together, I'm going to save it for another Star Wars-centric day. Maybe later on this month, closer to the release of the new movie. Or maybe Life Day. We'll see if I want to do another tier list this close, given how much work goes into them. But tier lists are highly opinionated matters. So, my choices may be controversial, or you may not agree with my choices, but that's why there's as many different Star Wars character tier lists as there are Star Wars fans. So that's what we're here for. We will also be joined tonight by my 3 droids, who I will introduce in a minute. And the droids may have some commentary on some of these characters also, but I'm still learning the droid beep speak, so I can't guarantee that I'll be able to tell you what they say when they say it. But the droids are here to give their opinions anyway, and they do like to interrupt me sometimes, so they may talk over me. Now I'll switch over to the camera and the tier list, and we can get things going with our ratings in a moment here. So we are now on the tier list page, and you can see the droid cam. Before we get started with the tier list, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the droids real quick. This one on the left is my second droid, who was activated last year. His name is OR30, or Oreo. And you can actually, I actually did a build tutorial for him. So if you want to watch a video on how to build a Galaxy's Edge droid at home, you can go on my channel. My YouTube channel has all my past streams. YouTube channel, same name, Uncle Evie. And you can look it up and you can actually watch OR30 get built. Next to him is R3 Evie, my original droid, and channel mascot, who's the one I actually brought home from Batuu, from Galaxy's Edge itself. He's the only one who's actually activated on planet. But all these are built using authentic Galaxy's Edge parts. And the droid on the right here is SH-47, my newest droid, Shay. And we just activated her about a month ago. Same deal as OR30, bought the parts. Like I said, they like to interrupt me when I'm talking sometimes. But same deal. These two white droids on the ends, I bought the authentic Galaxy's Edge Droid Depot parts and assembled them and activated them at home. So SH-47 was built in this new house. OR-30 was built at the apartment. R3 Evie was built on site. So now that we're done introducing the droids, we can introduce the tier list. You can see whoever built this template gave us a whole bunch of different rankings here. We have, and actually, let me make droid cam a little bit smaller so we can see the whole rows here. Alright. Not too small though. We'll adjust it if we need to later. So we have GOAT, which I guess is top, what would be S tier everywhere else. We have 8 different tiers here: Legendary, Amazing, Great, Good, and then Meh and Terrible. So there's really only 2 categories for characters that aren't as cool. Interesting. So the big question here is, what's the split between GOAT, Legendary, Amazing, Great, and Good? Even mediocre characters get to be in good, because I guess there's no such thing as a bad Star Wars character, because they're all cool in their own right. You can see here a large spread of characters representing a whole bunch of different shows. It says here, episodes 1 to 9, Rogue One, Solo, Clone Wars, Rebels, Mandalorian, Jedi series, Bad Batch, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Andor, and more. So if we come to a character I don't know, they don't usually all talk at exactly the same time. Usually they, but sometimes they do. So anyways, if we come to a character I don't know, then we'll save them for the end. Because if I have to look up a character, it's going to take a little more time. So we'll go through all the characters I know, and then we'll come back to the characters I do not know. And if we can't figure out a character with a very quick lookup, we'll just we'll just put them in don't know. I don't want to spend more than a minute per character. That said, most of these characters I do know. So also it looks like a lot of the really iconic characters are top loaded here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to skip around a little bit. And that way we make sure that we don't have all the big name characters in the first 10 minutes of stream. And then there's a whole bunch of sideshow characters that most of you wouldn't recognize. Although it looks like they did a good job of mixing some of them up. So I've talked too much already. Let's go ahead and get this started. There's actually an ad covering the corner of my tier list screen. So the droid cam is doing nicely covering that up. So let's start. Let's get him out of the way. Let's start with Jar Jar Binks. Now, most people would put Jar Jar Binks in terrible and just move on. I think... But when it comes to me and my opinion is the only one that really counts for this version of the tier list. And yeah, he's kind of not my favorite character, but I don't hate him like everyone else does. Yeah, he's kind of annoying. Yeah. Jar Jar is kind of annoying, but I do like the version... Oh, the droids have a lot to say about Jar Jar, apparently. Well, I do like the version of him that we see in Rebuild the Galaxy, which... Yeah. Darth Jar Jar is kind of a cool character. This picture, and I take each picture represent like the character in all their appearances. If we think about Darth Jar Jar is pretty awesome. Darth Jar Jar, if he was the only version of the character, I would put in amazing. But given that we have to keep natural Jar Jar as part of our scoring, I'm just going to move him into meh. He's not a good character, but I don't hate him like everyone else does. So Jar Jar will go into meh because he's lifted up by Darth Jar Jar. Let's see, who do I want to do next? Let's get one of the big names out of the way. Let's do General Hux from the First Order here. So General Hux, bad guy through and through. And if we take him based on how he appears in just his first appearance in The Force Awakens, he gets into legendary territory. I mean, you look at his speech on Starkiller Base as they're blowing up the Republic. You look at his speech, it's straight out of a Nazi Germany Hitler propaganda rally. I mean, the iconography is totally all that from Nazi Germany Hitler. He really over the top. And then you watch episode 9. He becomes kind of a joke in episode 8. And then in episode 9, that whole he's the resistance spy thing. I mean, totally. They destroyed his character. They destroyed his character. He was a great character in episode 7. But in episode 8, he became a joke. And he was totally... his character arc was totally destroyed in episode 9. They totally miswrote his later movies. On Force Awakens alone, he'd be legendary. But when you consider the other 2 movies of the sequel trilogy, General Hux just drops to... I'll give him good. Because that scene was chilling. That one scene, very... probably darker than any of the Empire scenes in original trilogy for sure. So I'll just give Hux good. Because he was legendary in the first movie. But the subsequent 2 movies dropped him down considerably. Let's do the Gonk droid. Gonk droids have become kind of a meme. They look like walking trash cans. They're actually power generators. They're mobile batteries in universe. There's a talking Gonk droid in Rebuild the Galaxy named Servo. Otherwise, they're like astromechs in that they don't really talk. They more like beep and stuff. But it's a walking battery. And just because of how these guys have been memed, it's better than good. I'll put Gonk droid in great. Can't really make it amazing because so many other droids can do so much more. But the Gonk droid can go in great. And actually, I forgot to mention something. In some tier lists, everyone on the same level is considered equal by whoever's making it. Other people, when they make tier lists, they do sub-rankings each row. They rank by their preference within the row. I'm not really sure which system I'm using here. Because an individual ranking might be too much given how many characters we have to get through. But, maybe. Or I'll just make each row, I'll just put each character in a row. I don't think I'll rank within the rows. He turned his face away from Cam for a while. That's okay. He'll be back when he talks again. Let's do Watto. Another episode 1 character. But another one I want to get out of the way. I liked Watto in episode 1. He was pretty cool. But in episode 2, they bring out the... In episode 2, they really bring out the derogatory stereotypes with him. In episode 2, he has a hat and a beard. And he looks like an Orthodox Jew or an Amish. Although with his accent, yeah, he's totally derogatory in episode 2. If the episode 1 portrayal wasn't enough. But he's cool as a character. He's also a bit of a slime ball. He can join his episode 1 friend Jar Jar in Meh. Because of, he does bring out unfortunate stereotypes. Let's see. Let's bring in one of the big name characters to start things off here before we really get into it. We have here Chewbacca, one of the OG legendary. We're just gonna move Chewbacca all the way into GOAT. Not only is he a strong presence through the original trilogy, he's a great warrior. And he has an amazing family, as seen in the holiday special. And not only that, he was also a significant presence in the Battle of Kashyyyk during the Clone Wars. And what else was I gonna say about Chewbacca? He's just all around great guy. I mean, he's amazing. He was good in the sequel trilogy. He was good in his short appearance in the prequel trilogy. He was amazing through the original trilogy. He's also very good at the Dejaric tabletop game, so that gives him some credit as well. I mean, what's not to like about Chewbacca? Chewbacca will be GOAT. Alright, who do we want to do next? Let's talk about Maz Kanata. Maz Kanata is an interesting character who is still as mysterious as when she first appeared on screen over 11 years ago. So she's that character who runs the cantina in Force Awakens, and we see her briefly in the other two sequel movies. In Force Awakens, she's clearly playing both sides. Her cantina has both resistance sympathizers and First Order sympathizers. There's a First Order spy in her cantina. Um, she also has that really beautiful collection of flags that on the front facade of her building there. And somehow she acquired Luke's old lightsaber. So there's that. I mean, there's a lot of awesome to the Maz Kanata character. She's also very mysterious. And then in the second movie, she flat out refuses to help, being too busy. And then when we see her again in, even though she's playing both sides in Force Awakens, by Rise of Skywalker, by Episode 9, she's very clearly in the Resistance camp. She's actually literally with the Resistance at their base. So she does change sides at the end there, but at least she changes sides correctly. Still, the mystery, we don't really know we really don't know too much about her as a character. She does have all those wise bits about talking about people's eyes. I'm going to put her in great, because mystery always makes a character a little bit better. Alright, so, ooh. Okay, I just noticed there's separate entries for Chancellor Palpatine and Emperor Palpatine. We'll get back to them. But first, Even Piel, one of the Jedi Masters. I don't really know his contributions to the Clone Wars and all that or whatever. There's a lot of random characters who I don't really know and don't really want to invest time into researching because this is going to go on long enough as it is. So for Even Piel, he is a Jedi Master, and he does have a green lightsaber, and I'm preferential towards the green class lightsabers, so I'll just put him in good because he's a Jedi Master. Now, being a Jedi Master does not automatically make someone a positive, as you will see. But for now, he can go. There's separate entries for young Obi-Wan and old Obi-Wan. Okay, we may have to treat them differently then. But for now, let's do the Wampa. It's cool how they're including some of the creatures here. So the Wampa is that big creature on Hoth in Empire Strikes Back. And he tries to eat Luke Skywalker. He definitely eats Tauntauns for breakfast. And I just noticed that this picture that they chose of him is the bloodstained form after eating the Tauntaun. Interesting. So we get to see a little bit of blood in today's stream. Anyway, so the Wampa, it's an awesome creature. It's not quite as legendary as the Rancor, but it's up there in terms of its ferocity. And it's clearly as deadly as the Rancor, given that it almost ate like Luke Skywalker. Still, it's just a creature, and it's not really a sentient creature, so the best it can get would be... Well, creatures are still awesome. We shouldn't be discriminatory towards creatures just because they can't participate in the full-on wars. We'll put the Wampa in good. Alright, let's keep going now. Let's do... Okay, we can do Kira from Solo. Kira is an interesting character. Han Solo's first girlfriend. Later on, she ends up in the crime syndicate. Very high rank. And by the end of the movie, she's reporting directly to Maul himself. So Kira is a pretty big deal within the crime syndicate. She does have some combat skills. And yeah, the whole Han Solo thing. But yeah, in terms of girl power characters, she's not as strong to me as some of the others, but she's up there. Um, I'll put her in great. And like I said, it doesn't matter within the rows. I'm going to consider each row roughly equal for what they are. Admiral Holdo. Let's go ahead and get Admiral Holdo out of the way from Last Jedi. She's kind of a jerk. She comes in and says, hey, here's our strategy against the First Order. But she won't tell anyone what the plan is. And then she goes and knocks down Poe, who's basically trying to hold the resistance together himself at that point. And then she comes along and says, Poe, you're dumb. But she won't tell anyone what her plan is. Although she does pull that big kamikaze maneuver at the end. And kind of redeems herself a little bit. But she's a jerk when she's actually on screen. So, but that combined with her kamikaze, she can stay in meh. She's not terrible. Because she bought the Resistance time to escape at the end, so I can't say she's terrible. Let's do... Okay, I see a couple of different entries for Leia as well on here. There's 2 entries for anyone who has an old version and a young version. There's 2 different entries of them. Alright, this is going to be a little annoying. Let's talk about Cobb Vanth, the Marshal on Tatooine. I forget what that settlement was called. But in The Mandalorian, he had Boba's armor. And then he had a big role in the Boba Fett show. So yeah, he's pretty cool. He's doing his best to maintain peace in a town which is often has traders and smugglers and criminals and Tusken Raiders, and he manages to keep the town relatively at peace. And then his we don't get to see too much of him, so we don't get to learn too much about him as a character. I'm going to go ahead and put him in good. And maybe when he appears again in the future, maybe he'll get a little bit better. But for now, he doesn't really have enough screen time to get to really know him, so I'll just put him in good. Alright, let's talk about... Let's do Director Krennic. We need to start doing some of these villains here. Director Krennic, the Death Star Administrator. We see him in Rogue One, and then again in Season 2 of Andor. The Death Star is his project. And we see, from the moment he's introduced in Rogue One, we see he has the stereotypical Imperial officer nasty attitude going on. I mean, he does it over the top. And he gets one of the best Vader scenes as well in that movie. And his death scene is kind of poetic. He gets killed by the weapon that he was in charge of building. Tarkin was the one who arranged for that. Krennic's an interesting character all around. He does have, like I said, he does have the stereotypical Imperial officer attitude. So when it comes to his actual personality, he's a cookie-cutter Imperial officer. But his death scene is poetic, and he does have a cool factor about him that other officers don't have. I'm going to go ahead and say he's a great character. Alright, who do we want to do next? Let's talk about... Let's do Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru together because they belong together. They're a couple. And they're in terms of how they function, they're kind of... It's basically the same. They're basically together. They will go on the chart together. So they're the Luke's aunt and uncle, and they have a very brief appearance in episode 2 where they meet Anakin briefly when he comes down for Shmi's funeral, but we don't really get to see them as characters. That scene is more about their dad. Uh, by the original trilogy, it's just the two of them and Luke. And of course, there's simple moisture farmers on Tatooine, and they get killed while the Empire is hunting for the droids. But it's there's really not much to them. They're normal everyday people on Tatooine. Nothing. They took care of Luke though. They kept him alive on one of the most difficult planets to live on. So I'll put them in good. Where did Aunt Beru go? So Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru are gonna be good. I can't make them any better because they're just like normal people who don't really do much. Okay. Let's talk about Cal Kestis. He is a surviving Jedi apprentice. He's survived 2 epic video games so far. I haven't played them, so I don't really know his story. But I know he's awesome and he's popular. And I want his Lego minifigure, which comes in the Star Destroyer. Currently backordered on Lego and set to retire at the end of the year. But we're not talking about Lego sets right now. So for Cal Kestis, even though I know next to nothing about the character, I'm putting him in amazing. Jabba the Hutt will do Jabba the Hutt next. And Jabba the Hutt is hot take here. I don't think he's that great a character. I mean, he's a fat slug, and yes, he kills people. But he doesn't kill them himself. He has his slaves do it. Every bit of menace Jabba has, it's because he has servants and slaves behind him. You take them away, he can't do much. He can barely fight back in his death scene. And the way he dies, so lame. Considering how much power he supposedly has, he doesn't really fight back when he's being strangled to death by a slave. Granted, a very strong slave, but at that moment in the timeline, she's still his slave. So, and he barely can fight back when it counts. All his strength and power comes from the servants and slaves behind him. Take them away, he's nothing. So I'm going to put him in meh. Actually, you know what? He's legendary enough he can go in good, but not higher. He is still pretty effective as a villain. He's scary enough. If you see him, you better go running. He's scary enough that I'll leave him in good, but I can't put him any better because he relies on the people behind him. 9 Num the pilot. He's Lando's co-pilot for the Falcon in Return in the Battle of Endor. He's the co-pilot of the Falcon. We don't see too much of him otherwise, but if he gets to be the pilot of the co-pilot of such a legendary ship, we know he's got legendary piloting skills within the Rebellion. So a 9 Num, we're going to put him in good just because we don't know enough about him as a character. And he does have a cameo in Episode 9, but again, he just shows up as a pilot in the final sequence. We don't know enough about him as a character. Then we have Enfys Nest, the rebel bounty hunter from Solo. I like her awesome factor, her, okay, I may be a bounty hunter smuggler, but I'm doing this to help people appeal. I mean, and her mystery factor also helps her character out a lot. I mean, and she's a good fighter. Enfys Nest will go in amazing. I can't put her any higher because we still don't know too much about her as a character, but what we see on screen of her, amazing, I think, is a perfect fit. let's get in another. Let's do another beast here. Let's do the Rancor. And Rancors are a little bit more well known than Wampas. The Wampas are pretty much limited to ice planets. The Rancors, they're pretty widespread. After the one we actually see in the movie, they appear again in several video games. They appear again, I think, in one of the shows. The Rancors are legendary enough that they have multiple appearances across multiple planets. If Wampa isn't good, Rancor is pretty much the same. But because it's more versatile and can appear in more environments, it's better than the Wampa. So if Wampa isn't good, then the Rancor will be in great. Now let's come here and I think any characters I don't know, I'll drag to the bottom as we go. Dr. Pershing from Mandalorian. Because we have to do him. Dr. Pershing, he's a cool scientist. We don't get to see, regular workers in the Empire. We always see the officers and the troopers. But we don't usually get to see, the civilian employees. Pershing is an Imperial scientist. Granted, he does controversial programs. Of course, all the Imperial programs are controversial. But Pershing, he's not much of a fighter. Like, you actually see him on screen panic when the fighting shows up. So, and then there's that whole arc where he tries to go for redemption in the New Republic and gets that his whole redemption arc is messed up because he slips back into old habits. Yeah, he's good as a character, but we don't really see enough of him to make him. He's really good as a character. I like what he represents for the story, in that we actually get to see, with him, we get to see regular people who work for the Empire, and how they can make bad choices and stuff under the influence of their officers. And we even see him try to go for redemption. So he's cool. Dr. Pershing will go into great. Let's do K2SO. K2SO is an Imperial assassin droid who is reprogrammed for the Rebels. Great sense of humor. Does pull a heroic sacrifice at the end of his story arc. K2SO will make him a great character. Zori Bliss. We see her briefly on screen on episode 9. She's a former acquaintance of Poe. Back when he used to be a smuggler before the events of the Resistance. We don't really see enough on Zori Bliss to form a true opinion of her as a character, so I'll just toss her into... Her outfit and mask does give her a cool factor, but since we don't see enough of her on screen, I'm just going to toss her into meh and move on. Then we have Kirat Imwa from Rogue One. He's blind, and yet he still manages to... He's blind, and he uses a melee staff weapon, and yet he still manages to disarm and knock out multiple stormtroopers. Even blinded, he still has great combat ability. Considering also that he doesn't actually have any formal Jedi training. He's all about the Force. I'm one with the Force. The Force is with me is his mantra or something he keeps repeating. So he does have the Force, but he never had any formal training because the Jedi are all killed at that point. But he's got a cool, awesome factor to him. I'm putting him in amazing. Or does he belong in great? No, he can stay in amazing. The blindness is what does it for him. He's able to fight well even being so blind. Jabba's cousin. What was Jabba's cousin's name again from Clone Wars? Give me a moment to do a quick look up because I do recognize that character. I just don't remember the name. Alright, it's Zero. Zero the Hutt. That's what I thought. So Zero... kind of a lame character, trying too hard to be like Jabba, but isn't. And I haven't seen. I like to put in a disclaimer here. I haven't seen all the animated shows. I do kind of have a general idea what happens, but I don't know all the details. I do know that Zero gets slaughtered at some point. Um, and Zero actually, I'm gonna go ahead and say Zero is a terrible character because what little I know about Zero, I don't like him. But what little I know about Zero is enough to warrant terrible. Bosk the Bounty Hunter. Again, I only know a very little bit about him. What we see in Empire Strikes Back when he's one of the 6 bounty hunters that Vader hires to track the Falcon. But I do know that in the backstory he has a personal rivalry with Chewbacca. In fact, his species and the Wookiees have a long-standing rivalry. So him versus Chewbacca may not be anything personal. It may just be an extension of that. But still pretty cool that he goes one-on-one with Chewbacca. But still, he's a bounty hunter with very little screen time. But he's a talented bounty hunter. He does have a reputation. I'm going to go ahead and put him in good. Bosk goes in good. Alright. BD... I think this is specifically Cal Kestis' BD droid. Cute little thing. I don't really see... Since I haven't played the Jedi games personally, I don't really know the utility of BD droids. I know Peli Motto from The Mandalorian has one. And I know that there are some of the roaming droids in Disneyland. They're kind of cute. I don't know what their utility is. Cuteness factor alone is enough to put them in good, though. So the BD droid will go in good. Let's talk about... Oh, is that who I think it is? Let's talk about Hera Syndulla, the captain of the Ghost from Rebels. Strong character, has rank in the New Republic, is seen in later shows. But on the merits of Rebels itself, strong fighter, great leadership. I'm going to say Hera Syndulla is a great character. Oh wow, we've been doing this 40 minutes already, and we are still hitting at about the 1 character per minute metric, but with 180 characters, that's a 3-hour stream, at least. So let me try and see if I can speed things along a little bit here. Let's do a few characters quickly here. Peli Motto from The Mandalorian, the junkyard mechanic who helps Mando rebuild his N1. She does a lot of rebuilding, droid repair, starship repair. Funny character, too. I'm going to say that Peli Motto is a great character. Let's move on. Savage Opress, Darth Maul's brother. Great combat ability. I know that he helps Maul during the Clone Wars. I also know that he gets slaughtered by the Sith later on. He's got a cool factor to him, though. I'm going to make Savage Opress a good character. Yeah. If you've been paying attention to the droids, you'll notice that all 3 of them have slightly different voices. That's by design. I wanted to make sure each of them had a different voice. Let's do Poggle the Lesser, the Geonosian administrator during Attack of the Clones. He's the one in charge of the Geonosian factory and the Geonosian arena. Pretty high ranking in the Separatists for at least that early part of the war. But I don't know his role. I'm not familiar with his role in the Clone Wars animated series. I know he gets slaughtered also. I'll put him in good. He's an interesting one, but not interesting enough to warrant going any higher than that. We still don't have anyone in Legendary. Iden Versio from Battlefront. She's an Imperial squad leader who later defects to the rebellion after learning about the Imperial plans. That's her story as I understand it. Her minifigure is pretty cool. But again, we're not talking about Lego. I'll say Iden Versio is an interesting character, but I don't know enough about her to put her any better than good. So let's keep going. Satine Kryze, Duchess of Mandalore. The Mandalorians are a traditional warrior race, and Satine wants to bring Mandalore into an era of peace, totally going against what the Mandalorians traditionally represent. But still, peace is good. And that whole Obi-Wan thing, and then her whole death scene. I'll say she's a good character, but I don't know her character well enough to put her any higher. So Satine, Duchess Satine of Mandalore will be a good character. Now, let's talk about the two Obi-Wans together here. We have Clone Wars Obi-Wan, and then we also have Old Obi-Wan. Old Obi-Wan as a mentor character to Luke is interesting. He's cool. He comes back as a ghost, which is fun. I think ghost form and the fact that he's a mentor and even in his old age, he's able to scare off the Tuskens and fight Vader. Old Obi-Wan will go into Legendary. He does die, but death doesn't stop him. He comes back as a ghost. And that is enough, I think, to make him Legendary. And now we'll go back to Clone Wars era Obi-Wan, prequel era Obi-Wan. And he drops several ranks. And here's why. My opinion might be controversial. If we take Obi-Wan just on merits of being Obi-Wan, yeah, he's legendary. But think about this in universe. He had that fight with Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. And he saw that Anakin had clearly gone to the dark side. And he knew Anakin would be... He didn't finish the job on Mustafar. He left Anakin to die, assuming he would die, which, okay, what, if you were in the same situation, you just saw your opponent get burned to a crisp, you'd assume that they were dead and walk away too, probably. So I'll give him that. But then, in Obi-Wan, which takes place a few years later, he goes back and duels Vader again and leaves Vader to die in the pit. At that point, Vader has already shown who he was as a character. He's already shown that Vader has already demonstrated that he's a murderer. His favorite thing to do is kill people. And Obi-Wan still just leaves him in the pit instead of finishing the job. Now, I get why he didn't kill him, because that takes place before the original trilogy, so Vader had to survive. But as a character, that reveals a major flaw in the way young/middle-aged Obi-Wan thinks. Vader as a character was already a menace and a bad guy and a problem for the galaxy. And Obi-Wan had the chance to finish him and didn't. Obi-Wan knew at that point what Vader was, and he still just left him in the pit instead of finishing the job. So, adult Obi-Wan, for me, for not killing Vader, he still has great contributions in the Obi-Wan show and the Clone Wars. He drops from legendary to just good. That I can't get over that whole leaving Vader alive thing, though. So I can't make adult Obi-Wan great or anything. But old Obi-Wan, death doesn't stop him, so he goes all the way to legendary. Moving on. Let's talk about... Okay, I don't know who some of these are. Wedge Antilles, the famous rebel pilot who survived Yavin, Hoth, and Endor. We only see him in the context of being a rebel pilot. He doesn't really have any story arc or anything. But the fact that he survived Yavin, Hoth, and Endor, and he's legendary. He's legendary in the universe. Oh, and he was in episode 9 as well as an old man. Let's put him in amazing. He doesn't have enough of a story arc to be better than amazing, but as a pilot, he's one of the galaxy's best. So Wedge Antilles will go in amazing. Let's talk about Boba Fett as a kid. He's just a kid. I hear he got a nasty attitude after Jango got bumped off. But again, I don't really know his kid story arc in the Clone Wars. I do know that he was kind of annoying in Attack of the Clones. I'll just put him in meh, because he's a kid. Boba, as a full-on cool character, doesn't really come out till he gets his armor later on. Let's see, what have we got here? Got a bunch of clone troopers I don't recognize by sight. We got some other characters here. Let's do Plo Koon, Jedi Master. And Plo Koon is, I understand he's one of the he's one of the Jedi Masters who's more about mentorship of the younglings, which is good. He gets involved in the Clone Wars. He does a lot of the, he's got some good lightsaber abilities. If it came to Jedi Masters that I would personally want to be trained by, he's up there on my list. I'm going to say Plo Koon is great. Not all Jedi Masters are great, but Plo Koon is. He is one of the more, I forget where I was going with that. The droid interrupted me. Let's talk about Asajj Ventress. If we were doing this tier list about a year and a half ago, probably not as high on the list. She's a dark side, but she does have a redemption arc in her most recent appearance. So great fighting ability. Kind of got that whole bad attitude thing going on. I think as a villainous character, she was working with Dooku for a while, but then she left, and then there was a fake out death and a redemption arc. Interesting story arc going on with her. I'll go put Asajj Ventress in great. Alright. Is this... Let's talk about Ki-Adi-Mundi, another one of the Jedi Masters. Okay. Remember what I said, not all Jedi Masters are great? Well, the Jedi had a rule that they couldn't have attachments, they couldn't have families. They made a specific exemption for Ki-Adi-Mundi because his species... Oh, we have a spammer. Let me get rid of the spammer real quick. We just banned the spammer. So Ki-Adi-Mundi, the Jedi Council made a specific rule to the no family. They made a specific exception to the no families rule for him because his species was dying out. There was a long illness on their planet or whatever, and so the species was dying out. And so, to address the declining population, they made a rule that everybody had to have everybody of that species had to get married or whatever. So he actually had multiple wives, a couple dozen children. He ignored them all. He didn't spend any time with them, focusing only on his time with the Jedi. He ignored his family. And then the Clone Wars come along and the Separatists kill his family. He doesn't care. He doesn't go to help them. He just stays doing his Jedi stuff. And the fact that he basically didn't care about his family and didn't let them, and he just left them all to be wiped out by the Separatists, I'm actually going to go ahead and say he's a terrible character. Um, Jango Fett, cool bounty hunter. I do like the great fighting skills, great piloting skills. It's a little lame the way he died, but really, if you have an angry Jedi Master coming after you, um, you gotta keep your head, or you're gonna lose it. So, and Jango just did not know how to fight the Jedi. So, but he's a pretty awesome fighter until then. I mean, he's legendary within the universe. I'm gonna say Jango Fett is a great character. He can't be any higher because of the way he got killed off, and because he has limited screen time, so I have limited knowledge of him. Bo-Katan Kryze, the Mandalorian. From her appearance in The Mandalorian, I'm going to say she's an awesome character. Attitude issues, but really in Star Wars, who doesn't? I'm going to go ahead and put Bo-Katan in great. Let's talk about Bail Organa, the senator and founder of the rebellion. He's a pretty cool character. We don't really get to see him fight, but he's smart. He knows where it's at. The rebellion exists because of his contributions, and a few other people, of course, but he's like one of the main founders of the rebellion. He actually questioned the troopers when he saw the incident at the Jedi Temple. Obviously, he left so they wouldn't get arrested, but he did try to question the troopers. I'm going to say Bail Organa is a great character. Let's move on to the next one. Okay. Let's do Luthen Rael from Andor. The man behind the curtain. The guy pulling the strings, putting the rebellion together. He's kind of a sinister character in his own right. You remember his monologue with the Imperial... with his spy in the Imperial Agency. He's pretty ruthless, sinister, has people killed. He's basically Palpatine for the good guys. But the rebellion would not exist if not for him behind the scenes making arrangements, assembling everything from the shadows. So, Luthen Rael, for his role in the founding of the rebellion and just the awesome factor of the mystery of him, I'm going to say he's a great character. Now let's talk about the Armorer from Mandalorian. She's pretty awesome. I like the mystery factor she has. And I like the wisdom that she's always imparting on the Mandalorian and the members of her tribe. She's a great leader to her tribe. She crafts beautiful armor. She has a nice workshop. There's a cool factor to her, but again, because she's so mysterious and we don't know too much about her as a person, the best I can do is put her in. I'll put her in great because she is an awesome character. Alright. Mace Windu. Jedi Master. And probably the Jedi Master most responsible, other than Obi-Wan, for Anakin's fall to the dark. Mace Windu, totally... First of all, he's a human on the Council. It takes a lot for a human to reach that level of Force talent. So the fact that he's the second, he's the second in command of the Jedi Council under Yoda, and he's a human, and he's got a purple lightsaber, and the in-universe story about that is apparently that he learned how to channel his inner darkness into light side energy instead of dark side energy. And he invented a whole lightsaber combat style. And we get to see him in action quite a bit throughout the shows. he's and he went and he survived dueling Palpatine when he and three other Jedi Masters went to confront Palpatine. Palpatine killed three of them in seconds, and Mace Windu lasted for quite a bit and had Palpatine on the ground. So Mace Windu, great fighter, the ability to channel the inner darkness, and yet, as far as attitude, he's still not. The fact that he didn't trust Anakin, of course, Anakin wasn't to be trusted, as we learned, but the fact that he didn't even consider Anakin, I gotta drop him to just good. If he had given Anakin a little bit more consideration, maybe that whole scene, that whole sequence in Palpatine's office would not have gone down the way it did. Anakin and Mace would have been a good team, a great team against the Sith, had they been able to work together. But no. Also, another note about Mace Windu and the Jedi Masters in general. How did they not detect that there was a Sith Master directly in front of them? Exactly. Anyway. Enough ranting about the Jedi Masters and their hubris. Let's move on. Newt Gunray, Trade Federation Viceroy, the primary villain of Episode 1. He's in charge of the Trade Federation and later becomes a major separatist leader. He's kind of a coward. He runs away whenever fighting is happening. So he's kind of a coward. He doesn't participate in the fighting directly. And his death scene is kind of pathetic. I'm going to say he's meh as a character. He's not really that interesting as a character, but he's not terrible. Alright, let's do Luke's... Well, for the characters that have multiple entries, I want to narrow a few more things down off the board. But let's go ahead and do C-3PO. C-3PO. Coward, but fun coward. And he's there throughout the whole saga. He's there for everything that matters. He looks cool. He always has a good quip. He can... My favorite C-3PO moment is actually in Episode 9, a movie which mostly I don't like, but there were a few cool moments in it. I liked when he went all Sith and to do that whole thing with revealing the inscription on the knife. C-3PO, he's legendary. He may not participate in the fighting, but his presence is enough to brighten anyone's day. It's always a fun time when he appears. Let's talk about stormtroopers. And this looks like specifically Imperial stormtroopers. Since this block just represents unnamed troopers, the troopers are cool, but I'm going to put them in med just because these are unnamed ones and they're all over the place and they basically function as unnamed troopers. So they're meh just because they don't represent any one specific character. I have here... We're going to do a few more characters jumping around, maybe another 20 minutes or so of jumping around, and then we're going to do the rest of the list top to bottom so I can make sure that we're hitting mostly top to bottom. But we're going to save some of the big names for the end here. We're going to do Black Krrsantan, the Wookiee bounty hunter. He's kind of... He's considered a traitor on Kashyyyk amongst his own race, the Wookiees, because he's into bounty hunting and killing things. But he has a redemption arc once he joins Boba's crew once he joins Boba's team in the Boba Fett show, he kind of has a redemption arc. And he has a cool factor as being that kind of a Wookiee. I'm going to say he's a good character. Good, not as in not good versus evil, but good as in he's a solid character. He's cool, but there's other characters that are a lot cooler than he is. And that whole thing about him being not his own people hate him, so he can't be too much higher than that. Count Dooku, Jedi Master turned Sith. He saw the hubris of the Jedi. He left the Order, and he eventually met Darth Sidious and saw that, and he really thought that Palpatine was trying to improve the galaxy. He really thought he was doing good by founding the Separatists. But that said, he did found the Separatists. He was the Separatist leader and did some pretty shady, evil things as a part of that. And he was a bad guy by the end. But he really thought he was trying to help the galaxy. Part of character motivations always. And then that whole death scene was pretty cool. Dooku is... I'm actually going to say he's a great character. Not amazing. He does have some personality flaws. Actually, you know what? But his combat... He has the shockwaves that he does and the lightning. I'm actually going to put Dooku in as an amazing character. Finn. Say what you want about the sequel trilogy. It did a lot of things poorly. But in Finn, we see a stormtrooper who actually develops a conscience and a redemption arc. And then he becomes one of the Resistance's greatest heroes. He even picks up a lightsaber and goes one-on-one with Kylo Ren for a little while. He's definitely brave. He's definitely cool. He's probably one of the stronger characters in the sequel trilogy. Even if there are weak character moments overall for all of them. I'm going to say Finn is a great character. So many sequel trilogy characters are just good or worse. So we'll make Finn great because what really gets me there is he's a stormtrooper who turned good, and that alone puts him a step above some of the other sequel trilogy characters. We have Kit Fisto, Jedi Master, another one of the greats. I would put Kit Fisto wherever I put Plo Koon. He's another Jedi Master who's good with the younglings. He developed a lightsaber variant that can be used underwater for use on the ocean planets. And the Star Wars galaxy has a few ocean planets. He's got a cool factor. His aquatic species gives him as a cool factor. And even though he gets killed pretty quickly by Palpatine in the confrontation in the office, he lasts longer than the other two Jedi Masters who were in that scene. It was those first two Masters got killed within the first second of the battle. Kit Fisto actually survived for about 2 seconds, maybe 3, and then Mace Windu carried the battle. But as a Jedi Master, he's a great character, Kit Fisto. Let's talk about the Palpatines, since we haven't done a big name in a while. The Chancellor and Emperor Palpatine are both on this list as separate characters. Emperor Palpatine, cookie cutter, stereotypical, over-the-top devil character villain. As the Emperor, he does some pretty evil things to his own civilians. He massacres people, kills. He's all about killing people. That although that confrontation with Luke is classic and chilling, for that alone, I'm gonna say he's a great character. I can't really put him any higher because he does do the stereotypical cookie cutter villain stuff, but he is a great character just for that scene alone, that chilling scene in Return of the Jedi, and also Revenge of the Sith. As Chancellor, though, he becomes even more interesting because here, as Chancellor Palpatine, here's a guy who basically engineers a whole war. He puts the whole galaxy at war in order to set up his endgame. He's playing both sides. He's the guy. He's the top commanding officer of both sides of the war, and he manages to keep this war going for like 15 years. He has his plan going, and nobody suspects a thing. Nobody. Except for the people who are in on it, who he has, of course, killed behind the scenes, but whatever. But Palpatine is an interesting character because nobody figures out for 15 years that he's the one engineering this galactic-wide conflict so that he can take over. So if Emperor Palpatine is a great character, then Chancellor Palpatine is an amazing character, a rank up, because he's able to he's able to blind the whole galaxy. He's able to pull off his master plan without anybody suspecting, and so that makes him an amazing character because he does something that should not be possible. Let's talk about Poe. Poe is a brave resistant pilot. He's essentially leading the resistance fleets at various points in the sequel trilogy. Yeah, he does have issues with pride and arrogance, but the resistance would not survive if not for his actions. I mean, he pretty much leads all the space battles that they do, except for when Holdo shuts him down. I'd say Poe, as far as sequel trilogy characters goes, Poe is one of the more interesting, greater ones. I liked him. I'm putting him as a great character. Let's see, Jyn Erso from Rogue One. She was working with Saw Gerrera's smuggling crew for a while, and then becomes a rebel hero at the Battle of Scarif, stealing the Death Star plans. Reluctant to go on that mission, though. But yeah, great character arc. Jyn Erso is one of the more interesting character stories. I'm going to say Jyn Erso is a great character. Admiral Akbar. It's a trap. Not much screen time, but still. One of the leaders of the rebellion. We do see him in action in the sequel trilogy as well, until he gets blown up. Admiral Akbar. He gets legendary. And not just because of the meme, but yeah, mainly because of the meme. It's a trap. Alright, what do we got next? We have... Let's do Wicket the Ewok. Wicket is the Ewok who finds Leia on Endor. And Leia and Wicket become friends, and that's how Wicket is able to help his tribe become friends with the rebels, and then they're able to knock out the Imperial base. Wicket is the reason that the Ewoks join in the battle, and it's really cool how the Ewoks, these primitive people with sticks and stones, knock out an Imperial base who have blasters and lasers and stuff. I mean, you just don't expect that from little teddy bears. And plus, he's got the cute factor. I'm going to say Wicket is a good character. I'm not going to put him in great because there's so many other more interesting characters than just, cute little teddy bears that can kill you. But let's do... Let's, let's do Dengar the Bounty Hunter. One of the other Empire Strikes Back bounty hunters. I don't know too much about him. He's got cyborg parts, permanent injuries. I mean, he's got a cool factor to him, but I don't know too much about his story. I'm just going to put him in meh. And I think we need to... How many characters do I have left? Well, we've only done about a third of the characters so far, so let's do a quick speed round. Let's do all the minor characters from the grid, left to right, and I'll drag down the bottom ones, and I'll go back and we'll speed round all the remaining major characters. So Isla Secura, Jedi Master. She's pretty. She has a... her death scene is kind of beautiful on the Jungle of Felucia. It is an Order 66 death scene with the clone troopers and whatnot, but it's one of the more gracefully pulled off death scenes. I don't know too much about her as a character, but I'll put her in good. I don't think there's anything too controversial about her as a character type. So Isla Secura is good. Aura Singh, the bounty hunter. Mostly she's seen in the Clone Wars. There is a small cameo in episode 1. I do know she has kind of an awesome story arc going on. I'm going to say she's a good character. I don't know her story too well enough to put her any higher. Let's see, we'll come back to... characters I don't recognize immediately we'll come back to. B1 battle droids. Cannon fodder. In the Clone Wars, they have a little bit of personality. They can be comic relief. They have strength in numbers. But they're the weakest of the mainline Separatist troops. And battle droids will actually feature heavily in my stream on Saturday. But like I said, Lego doesn't matter tonight. I'm going to put the battle droids in meh. Same deals with the troopers. They don't represent one individual character. Baze Malbus from Rogue One. Kirat Imwe's sidekick. He's the one with the heavy guns and the attitude and the... He goes wherever Kirat Imwe goes. Where did I put Kirat? Actually, he's not as cool as Kirat, so I'll put him one rank down. Baze Malbus will be a great character. We'll do Bib Fortuna, Jabba's headmaster. What's the term? Headmaster? No, that's not it. Head of household. Basically that role. So Bib Fortuna's second, basically. But as a character, he's kind of a coward. We know he doesn't participate in the battle at the Sarlacc because he's the one ruling the palace when Boba shows up and eliminates him. So Bib Fortuna as a character isn't that strong. He has moments of cowardice. He's actually kind of weak as a character, but he still has the cool factor of being respected enough in Jabba's ranks that he is the new Jabba for a while. I'm going to say he's a meh character. He's too cool to be terrible. Boss Nass, leader of the Gungans. We don't see enough of him to get to really know him as a character. We know that he tries his best to be a good leader. That's why Jar Jar gets exiled. But we also know that he doesn't always know what's right for his people. And again, invading an invading droid army from space. I mean, when your people haven't been to space for years and you don't know what the threats are, it's understandable that his tribe reacted the way they did. So can't really pin that on poor leadership there. But when it came time to actually join the fight, he stepped up where it counted. And I'd say he's a pretty good leader of the Gungans. Um, I'll say he's a good character. I can't really put him too much higher because I don't know too much about him as a character. Cad Bane, the bounty hunter, rule of cool. He's one of the cooler bounty hunter characters they've put up. One of the more unique ones. Cool story arc. And I just know that he's not dead yet. You saw the light flashing on his chest at the end of after his so-called death. He's not dead yet. He's coming back in some form. And he's got menace. He is a great villain character. Okay, Captain Phasma. She looks cool. And that's all she has going for her. When Force Awakens came out, before I saw the movie and I saw the merch and stuff, and I saw the marketing, I so much wanted to like this character. But she's actually pathetic. Doesn't really do much in the movie. And then her death is kind of lame in the next movie. They should have done so much more with Captain Phasma. They gave her a really cool appearance and wasted the character. The appearance alone will keep her out of meh. But as a character, she would get terrible. But her appearance would put her in great, at least. I'll say Captain Phasma is meh. As cool as her costume is, just meh for Captain Phasma. Sorry, I'm trying to speed round these. That's why we're going so fast now. Okay, what's her name? Cara Dune, the New Republic soldier from the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian. She had a good character arc. It's too bad that she had to be written out of the show, but that's not the character's fault. That's the actress's fault. So we'll separate that. We'll not count that as part of the character. And I'll say Cara Dune was a good character. She's not interesting enough to be great. Let's talk about Commander Cody. Now, he's cool in the Clone Wars. It's cool how his scene in Attack of the Clones is pretty cool. Obi-Wan's clone commander. So I'm going to say Commander Cody. Commander Cody is probably one of the 4 most famous, well-known individual clone commanders or clone troopers in general. I'm going to say Commander Cody is a great character. We'll come back to some of these big names here. Trying to see who I recognize on site. Ezra. Ezra is the Jedi apprentice from Rebels. We later see him in Ahsoka. He's a cool character. He has that cool blaster lightsaber. Cool story arc. And then the self-sacrifice at the end of Rebels to get Thrawn to be imprisoned on a faraway world away from the Empire. I mean, I'm going to have to say Ezra is an amazing character. Just because of just because of how he was able to entrap Thrawn. And then he came back. He comes back later. Moving on. Who else here do I recognize? Zeb. Cool alien character from the Rebels. He's got some combat ability. He's one of the last few members of a dying alien race. I'd say he's a good character. Solid. actually, dying alien race bumps him up to great. He's a solid character, and parts of his backstory make him an even more interesting character. So, General Grievous. He's definitely, when it comes to the villains, he's definitely got the coolest factor in terms of visual appearance. 4 arms, each carrying a lightsaber. There's a reason he's killed so many Jedi. And the fact that he keeps whenever he kills a Jedi, he keeps their lightsaber as a trophy. Oh, he's got menace, that whole cyborg thing going on. And his death scene, pretty dark and terrifying. Nightmare fuel, if you ask me. The way his eyes and his heart just blow up like that. But even not counting the death scene, Grievous is just awesome as a character in combat. But personality-wise, he's kind of lame. Another cookie-cutter bad attitude just to have a bad attitude villain without much character depth. I'd say he's... But yeah, his unique combat ability will bump him into great. If he was more interesting as a character, I would give him amazing. But his personality drops him down to great. Okay. General Price of the Final Order, as seen in episode 9. That is his name, right? General Price. Let me just make sure real quick. I'm trying to speed run at this point. Yeah, his name is General Price, I think. But I just tried searching him and I come up with someone else named Price. So I don't know who... I need to find out who the name of this general is. General Pride. Okay. So yeah. This is General this is General Pride, not Price. Price is another character. So he's the general of the First Order, or not the First Order, the Final Order, which is the Exegol fleet. And another cookie cutter bad attitude who's there just to be a bad attitude. He's really interchangeable with so many other Imperial officers at this point. I'd say he's a meh character at best. He's not a terrible character. He clearly knows what he's doing when he executes Hux, but I'm trying to save some of the bigger names for the end here. Greedo, bounty hunter from episode 4. The subject of the Han shot first meme. McClunky and all that. He exists just to get shot. He exists just to give Han a motivation for needing to take the Alderaan trip because he owes Jabba a lot of money. That's why Greedo exists. He exists literally to get killed, which makes him a non-character pretty much. He's terrible as a character. Now, I know that there's some backstory stuff on him that I'm not familiar with, but I can't judge on parts of the character I'm not familiar with. So, as far as I'm concerned, he's a terrible character because he has no development, no character. He exists just to die. And if we do assume that Greedo shot first, with Han sitting right in front of him, the only way to write that off would be say he fired a warning shot since Han himself didn't get shot. If he was firing a warning shot from that close range, shouldn't he have known that Han would fire back? Okay, whatever. I'm done ranting. What's her name? Vanna from episode 9. Another one of those somewhat empty-ish characters that episode 9 introduces just to tell too much story in too little time and rush everything. But Vanna is kind of interesting. There's an interesting story arc, but again, not enough time for it to be developed for her to be anything interesting. So I'll just put her in a mech character. If she had had her own show, or if she had been put in a show where there was more time to develop the character, she would at least be good. But the fact that there wasn't enough screen time to develop her enough to make her good, so let's just keep going. Quill, Mando's one of Mando's sidekicks from the first season, and then of course there was that self-sacrifice at the end, and he does have one of the more interesting mimetic catchphrases. I have spoken. His catchphrase alone will put him as a good character. Plus, of course, the self-sacrifice. That's always a big deal in Star Wars. Um, I can't put him any higher because we just don't see enough of him to really learn. Kylo Ren. Where to begin with him? Okay. He's whiny. Kylo Ren is one of the characters that actually gets more interesting in Episode 9. Episode 9 does a lot of things poorly, but one thing it does well, I think, is the Kylo Ren redemption arc. He's a cookie-cutter villain for the most part in Episode 7, and the fact that he kills his own dad, and then in Episode 8, where he then goes and kills his own master. I mean, he's killing a lot of people he should be respecting instead. So he's kind of poor as a character, but then he turns around in Episode 9, and then there's that whole... he does that whole self-sacrifice thing to help Rey out against Palpatine. He's definitely interesting for a villain. He's definitely whinier than a villain at his rank should be. I can't say he's a great character, but his character... If we take him from Episode 7 and Episode 8, I would rate him as a meh. But his character arc and development in Episode 9 bumps him into the good category for me. He's a good character. Ironically, because of the movie that does everything else worse, does him better. Alright. Who else do I immediately recognize? Luminara Unduli, Jedi Master, but her apprentice goes rogue. And that's partially her fault because she's the one who trained her. So if a Jedi Padawan turns dark and goes rogue, you gotta partially blame the Master for that, right? Because the Master's teaching methods may not be that great. I'm going to say Luminara Unduli is good for a Jedi Master. I'm not going to put her any higher because I don't know her character too well other than the fact that her apprentice went dark. Let's talk about Pong Krell. He's a Jedi Master who actually did go dark unbeknownst to everyone else. He used his clone troopers as cannon fodder. I read somewhere that he may have actually killed a few of his own clone troopers. He was technically a Jedi Master, but he was already slipping to the dark, and he was abusive towards his clones. I'm going to say Pong Krell was a terrible character. Let's move on. Qui-Gon Jinn, one of the wisest Jedi Masters out there. Had the Jedi Council not been full of members who were blinded by the pride of the Jedi, Qui-Gon should have been on the Council. He was clearly understood the Force better than most of the Masters who were on the Jedi Council. Qui-Gon was wise. He was into the living Force, which was a concept that a lot of the Jedi Masters didn't really understand anymore. His actions do set off the whole Anakin story arc. Qui-Gon is an amazing character in my part. He's actually one of my favorite movie Jedi. He's definitely one of the wiser Jedi, and he also is the one who taught Obi-Wan and Yoda the Force Ghost ability. Rose. Rose Tico from the Last Jedi. She was technically in Episode 9, but it was basically a cameo in that movie. Um, so I'm judging her almost entirely on Episode 8. She's there to distract Finn, basically. Great. She's got a great story arc, though. Joined the Resistance with her sister. Sister gets killed in action, and they go. She goes on this mission with Finn to get some. I forget the. It's such a big plot point, and I can't remember how it played out. It's been a few years since I've seen the movie, but something about a code. It's a fun mission. It involves going to a casino and then riding some horse-like creatures on the racetrack. I mean, it doesn't really make sense within the context of Star Wars, but then it does, so I'm not sure. But she's kind of an interesting character. The story arc alone makes her at least a good. When I say she's a great character, well, Finn is about to do a self-sacrifice to win the Battle of Crate for the Resistance, but Rose doesn't let him do it. Rose shuts down his attack, and that ends up losing the battle for the Resistance. So, good character. She loses great by not letting Finn win the battle for the Resistance. Okay. Sabine Wren, the Mandalorian explosives expert from Rebels. Her armor is rule cool enough to put her into amazing for me. And she's got a cool character arc in Ahsoka. I don't know too much about her Rebels story arc, but in Ahsoka, she's got a really cool story arc. No Force talents, but she becomes a Jedi apprentice and somehow does manage to tap into the Force by the end of the show. Ahsoka pushes her up a few ranks, in my opinion. So I would say Sabine is... Although, given what we know of her character history, the use of the Force at that point, at the end of Ahsoka, is not quite as believable. So I'll say she's a great character, and I'm undecided on whether her use of the Force at the end of Ahsoka is a benefit or a detriment to her character, because it contradicts everything we've seen from her character before. So instead of amazing, I'm just going to put her in great, because I'm undecided on her Force abilities. Alright, so we did well kind of speed running a few characters. Let's do one or two of the legendary characters now. Let's talk about Admiral Thrawn. One of the Empire's greatest masterminds. Of course, he's absent for the original trilogy because of how he got imprisoned by the on the extragalactic planet. So yeah, he's nowhere to be seen in the original trilogy because he wasn't around for that. But we see him in Rebels. He's a menace, but he's not stereotypical bad attitude like Imperial officers generally are. He's smart. He's clever. Tactical. He's more about ability, his ability to command. And then when we see him again in Ahsoka, he's just as menacing as ever. The exile didn't soften him a bit. So Thrawn is definitely a menacing character who's more than just the standard stereotypical Imperial bad attitude. I'm going to go ahead and say Thrawn is an amazing character. Let's talk about Grogu. Now with Grogu, I'm going to go ahead and right on say it. Grogu has been the face of Star Wars merchandise marketing for a few years since the Mandalorian show came out. And I think because they push him so much, he's a little bit overrated for what he is. He's cool as a character. I really like the character, but he's overdone in the merch. Now I get it. He's cute, and they needed something, and they needed a new face for the franchise after the Ewoks had carried the cuteness side for so many years. But they've been overdoing him in the merch. Um, the Mandalorian TV show came out about 6 years ago, and in those 6 years, Lego's already made 3 different brick built statues of Grogu, and that's just a demonstration of how overdone he is in the merch. I mean, and he's printed on all the merch packaging. So, but if we separate his off-screen appearances from his on-screen appearances and judge him purely on how he is in the show, he's a cool character. He's a 50-year-old baby. He still acts like a baby, but he has moments of intense force power. But then there's the scene also where there's those aliens who ask Mando to transport their eggs, and he eats the eggs, even though they're a sentient species. So there's that. Grogu as an actual character off screen Grogu as an actual character on screen is pretty fun, and I like him. And if we separate him from his overuse in the merch, then he quickly becomes a great character. Not amazing. He still acts like a baby. He doesn't have enough combat awareness for me to rank him any higher, but he'll get there. He's well on the way to becoming a great Mandalorian warrior. So he's a great character as a character, but again, overrated in the merch. Let's do one more of the legendaries, and we'll keep going down the list. And for time, I'm going to go ahead and everyone who I don't recognize within 5 seconds, I'm just going to put on the don't know line moving forward. So let's do... Who do I want to do? Dexter Jetster, the diner owner from Attack of the Clones. He has some rare knowledge. Obi-Wan goes to ask him about the Camino Dart. So he does have some rare knowledge. If you walk in, he's just a diner keeper, but if you're in the know, then he knows stuff. So he has that cool mystery factor about him. And of course, his restaurant. I mean, he runs a diner in the busiest city in the galaxy. So, and it's a diner style restaurant. You don't really see that in Star Wars. So, I like diners. I'm gonna say Dexter Jetster is but he also doesn't really have enough screen time to develop his character. But I'd say just because of his knowledge, and I mean his diner, and the fact he's got 4 arms, I'm gonna say he's a great character design. He's a great character. I know some of my criteria is kind of arbitrary and random, but hey, it's my tier list. Saw Gerrera, definite cool factor going on there. He's anti-Imperial, but he's as vicious as the Imperials. He is so violent, even the rebels are wary to work with him. But he was friends with Galen Erso, and he took care of Jyn Erso after Galen got captured, so there's that. And I'm going to go ahead and I guess he can best be summed up. He's a bad guy with a good heart, maybe. I'm going to say he's got a cool story arc, too. How he turned that vicious. And then that whole, of course, Luthen broke him a little bit as well. I'm going to say he's a good character. He could have been a great character if he was a little more willing to work with the rebels on their terms. Instead, he's just violently anti-Imperial for the sake of bringing violence to the Imperials. So because he because he's unable to cooperate with the other rebels, he can't be great, but he is a good character. He's got a cool story arc, and he's just a little fun in general. Let's go ahead. Let's do Moff Gideon, and then I'm gonna do kind of a bottoms up kind of deal, because it looks like at this point most of the big characters are top loaded. So we're gonna do Moff Gideon real quick. Moff Gideon being the villain from Mandalorian. I like him. I like how he represents that the Imperial continues to be a threat even after the Empire itself is officially defeated. There's still traces of the Empire being a threat and causing problems for parts of the galaxy. And he represents the Imperial remnant, and because he's New Republic era, he still represents straight Imperial. He represents straight Imperial appearances rather than being the updated First Order appearances. So he's still demonstrating that the Empire is still a threat even after they're actually defeated. And he has some cool moments as well. He's got some really cool fight scenes. He's got all those assassin droids working for him. He's got a really cool set of Mandalorian armor. I mean, what's not to... I mean, he's the Imperial who pulled off the massacre on Mandalore, so there's a lot going for this guy in terms of cool. He's still stereotypical bad attitude, over the top, bad attitude for the sake of bad attitude villain. Not really much character to him other than being over the top bad attitude. I'm gonna say he's a great character. I can't make him any better because he still has one of those generic personalities, but he's better than a good character in terms of what he represents for the show. So he'll be Moff Gideon and great. And now let's work bottoms up. Okay, this character with the yellow lightsaber. Is that new Ahsoka? I'm not sure. I can't tell who that... I'm going to put this yellow character in don't know for now. What we're going to do is anyone I don't immediately recognize, I'm going to put in don't know. And then we will... Oh, you know who I think that's supposed to be? Because I see a couple of Ahsoka characters right here at the bottom. I'm going to assume that's meant to be Shin Hati, which is Baylan Skoll's apprentice. And I'm going to go ahead and take care of these two from Ahsoka real quick. That might not be Shin Hati. I don't quite remember what she looks like, but their lightsaber colors are similar. So I'm going to assume that's supposed to be Shin Hati, and I'll go ahead and do Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati. Baylan Skoll, he is a Jedi survivor who then went dark side. He's on the extragalactic planet to do his own research regarding the history of the Jedi and the Sith. He's a cool character. We don't know too much about him. He's more of a mysterious character. I'm going to go ahead and say he's a great character. And then his apprentice, Shin Hati, I'm going to say she's a good character. She's not as interesting a character as he is. Baylan Skoll has that whole thing going on with his mystery and the fact that he's trying to learn about the Jedi and Sith history. Shin Hati is just following his orders, so there's not much character to her other than just... but they work well as a team and they have good fighting skills. Alright, Morgan Elsbeth, the Night Sister rival of Ahsoka, who is trying to bring Thrawn back. Her whole story is, let's bring Thrawn back. She doesn't really have any character of her own. Her whole personality is, I want to bring back Thrawn. She kind of has that... And because she's a Night Sister, not a straight Imperial, she does have a little bit more personality than just being straight bad attitude Imperial officer. I'd say she's a good character. What have we got here? I don't recognize this Mandalorian right off the picture. This green character I don't recognize. I'm just putting everyone I don't know in don't know. I need to look up this guy's name real quick. We're going bottoms up at this point. I'm looking up this character's name because Kino Loy is this character's name. Kino Loy. Interesting character. He's the prison foreman. He's the supervisor of Andor's team in the Andor's team in the prison sequence. And at first, he's just trying to keep his head. He's the supervisor, but he's still a prisoner himself. So of course the Imperials outrank him. So he's doing what he can to keep his head. Once Andor demonstrates that there is a way out, that there can be a way out, he becomes more sympathetic and actually helps Andor lead the prison rebellion that breaks everyone out. But then when they're all jumping in the river to escape from the prison, he has that whole I can't swim moment, and we never see his character again. Plus, he's played by the same actor who played Snoke, but that's irrelevant. But Kino Loy himself as a character, he's general civilian prisoner, but once he commits to helping Andor with a prison breakout, he really gets into it. I'm gonna say he's a great character. Wow, we have 3 rows of great characters, almost 3 rows of good. Amazing. We only have a few legendary characters. Well, I think when we get into... do we want to promote anyone into legendary? Not yet. Actually, I'm bringing... well... We have been kind of skipping over some of the big names. We'll get to them soon. This is that one rebel member from Andor, but I forget his name and his arc, so I'll put him in don't know. A lot of these Andor characters, I don't fully remember who they are, so as soon as I see someone I recognize, we'll move on. I'll look up the Andor characters at the end so that we can do some of these guys. So here's Dedra, the Imperial... from the Imperial Intelligence, the Imperial Security Bureau, I think it's called. They're basically the Empire's CIA. It's their job to research and investigate anti-imperial happenings and put them down. She's a cool character. I do know she ended up in the Imperial prison herself for failing at the end. But up until that point, she's not stereotypical bad attitude over the top like so many Imperials are. She actually has a personality and a character arc and some development. I'm going to say she's an amazing character just because she's different from all the other Imperial officers we see and actually has some personality. And then we have him. He's another... if the name escapes me, I'm dropping it and don't know, and we can revisit some of them at the end. Why are all the Andor characters drawing a blank in my mind in terms of name? Okay, we'll have to come back to all the Andor characters. Darth Malgus. I think that's Malgus. Yeah, that's Malgus. Okay, what to say about him? He's the leader of the Sith during Old Republic. I don't know too much about his story arc, but he has a menacing presence. I'm gonna say he's a good character, but he's like a clone of all the Sith cyborg red lightsaber big armor guys, and there's so many of them. A lot of Sith warriors and leaders use that same stereotypical template. So, actually, because he's a Vader clone, I'm just going to put him in meh, because I don't know his story arc or anything. Darth Treya, from Knights of the Old Republic 2. She's kind of a Sith who wants to destroy and rebuild the Jedi. Is kind of a Force neutral organization, neither light nor dark. She wants to balance the Force, but in an evil manner. She has an interesting story arc, not original, but kind of original for its time. I'd say she's a great character. Actually, good. I'll put her in good character. Because again, I don't fully remember her story entirely. I do know she was trying to balance the Force by destroying both the Jedi and the Sith. Darth Sion, another. Darth Sion was one of Darth Treya's minions, but he was menacing in his own right. He is a Sith Lord who used the dark side of the Force to basically keep himself alive in a zombie body for hundreds of years. He's kind of another one of those villains who doesn't really have too much personality other than being over-the-top villain. His story arc and abilities are kind of unique. I'd say he's a good character. And you know what? Let's just complete the trio. Darth Nihilus, the Sith Lord who has to... This is the Sith Lord who basically is a living black hole, and he needs to eat. He needs to eat Force energy in order to survive. Darth Sion and Darth Nihilus kind of interchangeable in terms of personality and what they do. They're kind of unique. I'm going to say they're good characters because of the unique ways in which they feed upon the Force. But they're not great in their own right. And Darth Treya is the most interesting of the characters in the trio. And if she's only good, then they can't be higher than her because she's the most interesting of the three in that trio. Is this Bastila Shan from Knights of the Old Republic? Straight Jedi. Knights of the Old Republic is one of the games which gives you a chance of going light side or dark side. If you go dark side, there's a chance that you can bring Bastila Shan with you. She's one of the most powerful Jedi at her stage in the timeline. I'm going to go ahead and put her in great characters. She has a lot of personality. And in Knights of the Old Republic, you actually have a chance of going romance with this character. There's a few characters that you can do romance with in Knights of the Old Republic. And because of that, and because of the way Knights of the Old Republic is, with its Force alignment system, you can actually make Bastila go to the dark with you if you wanted to. Is this... I need to look up this character real quick. And I know I said I was saving lookups for the end, but there's a few characters that I recognize. I just don't remember their names. That's a little bit of a different situation. So yeah, this would be Dr. Aphra, an archaeologist who did some work for Darth Vader. I don't know too much about her story, but the fact that she worked for Darth Vader and was an archaeologist of all things, that makes her kind of a unique character. So we will, and since she's one of the more unique characters here, I don't know about her enough to put her any higher than great, but I'll put her in great because of what she does and what she represents. We don't normally see archaeologists and that kind of, and scientists in the Star Wars galaxy, even though we know that the story dictates that they're existing in the background somewhere. So just her existence is enough to put... Just her existence and the fact that she worked for Darth Vader and lived to tell the tale puts her in great. Now we have this droid. Which droid was this? Crud. I don't remember who this was. We'll come back to that droid. Is that We'll come back to her. I'm putting a lot of people in Don't Know. We'll come back to Don't Know at the end. Mon Mothma, leader of the rebellion, the senator who spoke out against Palpatine, and then became the leader of the rebellion, and later the leader of the New Republic. The rebellion defeated the Empire under her leadership, and the New Republic tried to restabilize the galaxy under her leadership. Obviously, the New Republic did have some issues with restabilizing the galaxy. You would after a conflict of that nature. But Mon Mothma, all around, great character. Some great moments. I'm going to say Mon Mothma, for what she represents, is an amazing character. I can already see 3 girl power entries on the amazing list. Let's keep it going with the girl power. There's a couple girl power entries on the great list as well. Alright. He's from the Obi-Wan show. I don't remember him, though. He's also from Obi-Wan. We'll have to look up some of these characters at the end if there's time. A lot of characters from Andor and Obi-Wan. Like, I know who they are, but I don't remember their names. And here is Reva, the Inquisitor from the Obi-Wan show. At first, she presents as one of those bad attitude, cookie-cutter Imperial villains. But then you get the backstory about how she's in it to try and get an opportunity to revenge against Vader. So, there's a little bit more to Reva than being bad attitude Imperial. And then at the end, when she has the opportunity to kill someone important and just lets him go instead. That was big for the character. I'd say Reva is... she's not a well-written character, I would say. She's cool for what she is, but she's not as cool as most of the Star Wars villains. I'm going to put her in meh. Alright. Galen Merrick, Star Killer, Vader's secret apprentice from The Force Unleashed. Unfortunately, no longer canon. This guy is... What if somebody had the Force, but had unlimited power in the Force? I mean, the cover art for the game shows him Force pulling a Star Destroyer into a crash landing. I mean, this guy's capable of some pretty serious stuff. His Force lightning, maybe not quite rivaling Exegol Palpatine's fleet stalling lightning, but if you've seen Starkiller and some of the stuff he's capable of, he's nothing short of legendary. Plus his role in the founding of the rebellion as told in the game. Obviously none of that's canon now, but he also had a redemption arc. So the fact that his Force abilities are stronger than pretty much anyone, plus his redemption arc, he's got a cool factor that pretty much nobody else here has, just on merits of cool. Okay, Omega from the Bad Batch. I don't know anything about the Bad Batch, so most of the Bad Batch troopers are going to stay in Don't Know. Omega is part of the cloning program, and she's a girl. She's the only girl clone made, as far as I know, as part of the trooper cloning program. And for that matter alone, that makes her unique among the clone troopers. So I'm going to say Omega is, just because I don't know the character, but she's cooler than the other characters I don't know. Obviously, I can't put her in terrible because she's not a bad character. So, but because I don't know her, I'm just going to put her in meh. And we'll put the rest of these troopers in Don't Know. So these 4 clone troopers from the Bad Batch, like I said, I don't know. Let's go ahead and the Andor Rebels, because I can't remember their names, I'm going to stick them in meh. But because I've seen Andor, they're better than don't know. This guy, I really wish I remembered his name. The one officer who wanted to be who wanted to be an Imperial, who was trying his best to be an Imperial and failed. Oh, unlike the Rebels, who are meh because they at least were trying to do good. He's a terrible character. Poor story arc all around. He's basically an incompetent officer, tries to join the Imperials, still does no good, and gets himself killed. Why can't I remember his name? He was such an important character, and I can't remember his name. But he's a terrible character anyway, so we're not going to waste another minute on him. Now, same deal for the Solo Rebels. The Solo Rebels, I'm going to go ahead. Not Solo, I mean Obi-Wan. Since I can't remember their names, I'm going to go ahead and put them in meh. Except the one lady, I'm going to put her in good, because she actually was a spy. She impersonated an Imperial officer and was helping out the rebels through tracking Imperial movements. So the lady from Solo gets to be a little bit higher in good, even though I can't remember her name. And the 2 other guys from the Rebels in Obi-Wan, they'll stay in meh, because I can't remember their names. Alright. This guy, is this that Bendu creature? Let me, So it looks like with all the rest of the big characters top-loaded, we will, with all the rest of the major characters top-loaded, it looks like we're going to run through all these other characters first, get them out of the way, and then we'll have some time on the big characters. So this is Bendu. He's a Force entity. He apparently can summon whole storms. He's neither light side nor dark side. He's just a creature who is. I don't really know much about him as a character. I do know he has a cool uniqueness factor. And because he's so different from all the other characters, I'm going to put him in great. Since I don't know his role in the story, I'm not going to put him a higher. Shakti. Canonically, the Jedi Master with the most deaths. As she's seen dying in Force Unleashed. She's seen dying in a hologram recording in Episode 3. And she has at least one other death scene in visual media as well. So, yeah. They can't agree on how she died, but how she lived as a Jedi Master, she was one of the wiser ones. I'm going to put her on the same level with Kit Fisto and Plo Koon at great. I put Plo Koon in great, yeah. So Shakti will be a great Jedi Master. This guy. Oh, is that Mandalorian's bounty hunter friend? Or whatever, the one that he... the character that he rescued from that prison thing. Yeah, this is Mando's friend, and then they later went undercover in an Imperial base to infiltrate an Imperial base. I forget his name. He's an interesting character, but because I can't remember his name, I'll toss him in meh. I remember who he is, just not what he's called, and I don't feel like wasting time with looking things up right now. We have, no idea who this is. And, oh, that's the frog alien who asked Mando to transport his eggs. There's not much to the character. I'll just leave him and don't know. Who's this lady now? I don't recognize her either. I'll toss her and don't know and move on. Wat Tambor. He was one of the separatist leaders in charge of the Techno Union, one of many of the industry corporates that made up the separatist leadership. As a separatist leader, but not one of the big ones, I'm going to say he's met as a character because he isn't really developed. He is cool, though, needing this whole breathing apparatus when he goes off of his own planet. It's not often they do an alien that requires a whole off-planet breathing apparatus. So it brings more realism to the galaxy when they do an alien like that, because it means there are some planets that have different atmospheres. And it makes the galaxy feel more real like that. But that's his species as a whole, not him specifically as a character. So I'm just going to leave him as a character in Meh. Quinlan Voss, a Jedi who... There was an association with Ventress at one point. I don't remember the whole story. He turned to the dark side at one point. I think there was a redemption arc. I'm not sure. Because I don't know his story well, I'm going to go ahead and say I can't make an accurate judgment on him. And I'll just say he's a good character. Because as a character, I know he had importance. So he had importance as a character. So I'm just going to leave him in good so I don't have to think too hard about him. Darth Revan. Knights of the Old Republic. I'm putting him all the way in Legendary. I'm not going to talk about Darth Revan too much, except that his Lego minifigure is $300. Might be up to $400 now, actually, on the aftermarket. He's got Rule of Cool going on with him. Cool story. Cool outfit. And, I mean, I would spoil a 20-year-old video game if I told you part of Darth Revan's story, but... So I'm not going to. But he's actually, in some form, he's coming to canon. He was mentioned by Luthen Rail. Was it Luthen? No, he was mentioned somewhere in the Disney-produced Star Wars. I can't remember if it was Andor or if it was Episode 9 or somewhere else. But he was actually explicitly mentioned at some point. I just don't remember the context. So Revan is coming back to canon in some form. And he's straight to Legendary. Let's keep going. This is Darth Malak, his apprentice. Almost as cool a character. I'll put Darth Malak in Amazing. Darth Malak would be nothing if not for Revan. So I can't put him on the same rank. Darth Malak also... Darth Malak is interesting as he's the only Legends character to have Lego produce a minifigure of him after Disney replaced Legends with canon and declared Legends non-canon. Darth Malak is the only character from Legends that was made under Disney produced Lego during the Disney era of Star Wars. He's not canon anymore, but his minifigure just came out last year. No, it was the year before. Well within the Disney era. So he's the only non-canon Legends character to get a Lego minifigure during Disney era canon. Anyway, his minifigure is not $300. His set is just retired, but it goes... No, actually, his set is still on the market for... It's a $100 set. But yeah, it's cool that he has that distinction. Alright, this lady, I do not know who she is. Okay, I do not know this one. The Grand Inquisitor, leader of the Imperial Inquisitors who were hunting down the remaining Jedi. He's got Rule of Cool going for him. And the fact that he survived multiple deaths... I'm going to say he's a great character. He's not as cool as some of the other ones. Okay, I don't know this lady. Don't know this guy. And yes, I am speed running things right now because we are over 2 hours at this point, and I just want to be done with this chart. And we're gonna get into some. Wait, did I misrank someone before? Because I think that's Morgan Elsbeth, but I thought we already did Morgan Elsbeth. If that's more, if that's okay, that character we did before is Morgan Elsbeth, so I don't know who this Night Sister is. Uh, she's a Night Sister with which means she automatically has rule of cool. So instead of don't know, I'm just putting her in meh. Don't know is reserved for people who don't have rule of cool immediately from the picture. Oh, this droid is bugging me. I really want to know who that droid is. This droid right here. Yeah, who is that droid? It looks familiar. It's bugging me, but we gotta move on. No idea who this is. Oh, you know what we're seeing now? We're seeing a bunch of characters from the Jedi series. In which case, I would have no idea who they are. This guy, I think he's from Rebels, but I don't know who he is. We have Han and Lando as they appeared in Solo, but we also have Han and Lando later. When it comes to characters that have two versions on the list, we're going to judge them together. So let's move on now and judge Master Yoda. Yoda, the Jedi Master, head of the Jedi Council, who then trained Luke on Dagobah, came back as a Force ghost. He's got a lot of rule of cool going with him. His wisdom is legendary. He led the Jedi Council for several centuries. He almost is GOAT tier. His wisdom, his abilities, his legacy, all puts him in GOAT. But I have one problem with Master Yoda. He did not see the Sith coming. Being hundreds of years old and having been acquainted with thousands of Jedi over the years, he of all the Jedi should have suspected that something was amiss. Jedi Master Yoda himself should have known. Maybe not the Sith were returning, but he should have known that at least something was seriously going wrong, and he never suspected it. He did maybe a little bit too late. He acknowledges towards the end that that the Jedi probably misinterpreted the prophecy. So he does acknowledge towards the end that they had made a mistake. But he never suspected the mistake when they could still do something about it. So even though his wisdom, his legacy, his story, his character, his abilities, everything about him would make him GOAT, I'm just going to drop him in Legendary. Because he, of all the Jedi, at least he should have been able to sense that something was wrong, and he did not until it was too late. Even Yoda didn't suspect a thing with the Sith return. Okay, this is that one lady from the mission in Solo. The self-sacrifice. I can't remember her name, so I'll just put her in meh. At least I remembered what she did, so she's better than don't know. Beckett. Okay, this guy's cool. Beckett is the smuggler that Han was working with in Solo. He's the crew that Han joined, and then, of course, they got the Falcon later. They got that whole mission. And then that whole double cross at the end. I mean, Beckett is a good character. I'd say that there were more interesting characters in Star Wars over the years, but I'd say Beckett was a good character. The double cross ruined his character for me a little bit, but I kind of saw that coming. Snoke. Yeah, we can do big names now as they come up in this list because mostly it's big names left. Snoke. Snoke was a cool villain when he first appeared in episode 7. Then we see him in episode 8 and his gold bathrobe was kind of off-putting, and then his death was kind of anticlimactic. Yeah, he kind of had a lame death. And then in episode 9, when it was revealed that Snoke wasn't even real, that he was just a puppet. Like Hux, Snoke was a character who was given an amazing start in episode 7, and then whose character arc was totally destroyed and ruined in episode 8 and 9. So I put Hux in good because of the strong start. And Snoke did have menace, at least until he died. So I'll put him in. But unlike Hux, he actually did turn out to be just a puppet. But Snoke is basically Palpatine wearing a mask so he doesn't look like Palpatine. But episode 9 reveals that he's basically Palpatine. So Hux at least was his own person. So I'll put him a step down from Hux. I'll put Snoke as meh because he's not even his own person. He's just he's just there to be basically Palpatine's voice in the First Order. So Snoke gets meh, Shmi Skywalker. Well, without her, there wouldn't be an Anakin. And without Anakin, there wouldn't be a Luke. Simple slave girl killed by Tuskens. You know the story. I'm going to say she's a great character. What we see of her as a character, we see her being a good mom. We see her doing her job as a worker, as a civilian. Her death scene was kind of lame. But if it didn't happen, then Anakin wouldn't have had his character arc, and then Vader wouldn't have been set up properly. So it's unfortunate. Shmi's a great character. Let's move on. Salacious Crumb, the lizard monkey who sits on Jabba's shoulder. He's nothing but annoying. I know he's meant to be comic relief, and he's there to show Star Wars fans what the Muppets can do. But when you're showing off Star Wars Muppets, Yoda did Star Wars Muppets a whole lot better. Salacious Crumb, terrible, nothing short of annoying. There is no reason for that character to exist other than being set dressing, and exceptionally annoying set dressing at that. Okay, here's that alien that was on Beckett's crew. I don't remember him. Plenty don't know. I'm going to try and speed run this because we're at almost 2.5 hours now. We mostly have big characters left. Let's do Padme real quick. Strong girl pair. Padme is a strong girl power character. Yeah, Padme is a strong girl power character for episode 1 and episode 2. In episode 3, she's kind of more poorly written. Obviously, we wouldn't have Luke and Leia without her, so we have to put her in important. Well, episode 1 and episode 2, on those appearances, she would be legendary. Probably the top rated of all the girl power characters, but episode 3 drags her down a bit. She's kind of weak, a little bit cowardly in episode 3. Granted, in universe, she was pregnant at the time, so it's probably trying to stay out of conflict and things that might hurt the babies. So, in that, I can understand. But she's a much weaker character in episode 3 than in 1 and 2. So, she'll get amazing, along with several other girl power characters. I have 1, 2, 3 girl power characters in amazing so far. So 4. She would be legendary if not for getting weaker in episode 3. And then her death scene was just lame. The doctor said she lost the will to live, and that's how she died. I mean, She could have stayed fighting and joined Mon Mothma and the other rebels. Bail Organa was also active at the time. She could have joined Mon Mothma and Bail Organa had she decided to not lose the will to live, but whatever. That's what happened. Padme's amazing. Let's get this guy. Is that looks like one of the Night Sisters. I don't know this character. Can't recognize by face. So let's don't know and move on. All right, this is a character I want to check the name of real quick. L337. Lando's droid girlfriend from Solo. She tries to lead a droid rebellion. She does have a self-sacrifice. I never really understood that scene because droids are supposed to be able to be rebuilt. So she should, even if her power core had been shut down, they should have been able to reactivate her. But no, she actually died. And then they put her brain into the Falcon, and she became the computer core for the Falcon's hyperdrive system. So she does get to live on as part of the legendary ship. During life, though, well, she's a droid. During the droid's equivalent of a lifetime, she did try to lead droid rights rebellions and all that. So there's that. Droid rights are always a fun thing when Star Wars tries to do it. That definitely makes her more interesting than some of the other droid characters. The whole living on after death in the Falcon. The best explanation I can come up with for why she dies, whereas other droids can just be rebuilt, is maybe a key component was hit, and it wasn't just damage to the systems, but it was damage to maybe a key memory core or something. That could be a possibility. As far as a character, she's definitely one of the more interesting ones with the droid rebellion and all that. And I'd say she's a great character. Moving on, let's do Hondo Ohnaka, the smuggling operator. In Clone Wars, he leads a smuggling operation. But what he's best known for, what I know him for is his role in Galaxy's Edge, where he was the smuggling captain who sent you on the mission on the Falcon. Now, that mission is being changed over to a mission based on The Mandalorian. I heard they're removing Hondo from Galaxy's Edge, or otherwise reincorporating him as a not as important character. So he's going to lose his importance in Galaxy's Edge. But Hondo Ohnaka is one of the key Galaxy's Edge characters up until now, even though he no longer will be. Plus his role in the Clone Wars. I'd say he's good as a character. He doesn't really bring anything unique to the table in terms of other characters, but he's cool, so he'll stay with the good characters. Let's do Grand Moff Tarkin. Aboard the Death Star, Tarkin technically outranks Vader, which is kind of interesting. Tarkin is one of the top level Imperial officers, probably second or third within Palpatine's inner circle. He commands the Death Star. He is pretty much outranks all the other Imperial officers. He makes one critical misstep in not evacuating the Death Star. He doesn't believe in the weakness that that has been potentially revealed. One tactical flaw does not break an Imperial officer with such an established record as he has, though. Yeah, he dies because of his failure on the Death Star, but up until then, he was he was the guy. It's arguable whether he was better than or Thrawn was at tactics. Whether he or Thrawn was better, it's arguable. But his career up until the Death Star was nothing short of, he really knew what he was doing up until then. He is the guy, and he's vicious. And yes, he is bad attitude Imperial officer, but he's not bad attitude for the sake of bad attitude. He's like, and he's not over the top. He's like strict, means business, but not over the top just for the sake of having a bad attitude. He actually is a villain who means something. I'm gonna put him on par with Thrawn in amazing. So that's Grand Moff Tarkin, and we will move on. And okay, here's Barra Sophie. Barra Sophie is Luminara's apprentice. She went dark, tried a bombing assassination, and then had Ahsoka framed for the crime. So she later joins the Inquisitors. She turned against Ahsoka, and for that, I'm just gonna say she's a terrible character. She was friends with Ahsoka when they were on the Jedi, and then she used and framed Ahsoka when she turned dark and did that assassination bombing thing. So, and then the whole Inquisitor thing. Yeah, I hate Barriss. Let's just be done with putting her in terrible and move on. I have here. Is this all right? I have two 501st clone troopers. One is Rex, and one is Fives. I can't tell which is which. I'm kind of not a fan of. See, the thing with Captain Rex is he actually left the 501st. Oh, okay, this one's Rex. I recognize from the helmet. So this one's Captain Rex. He was the leader of the 501st. He was affected by the Order 66 chip, but he did eventually retire, and he eventually became sympathetic to the rebels. So Rex, as a clone commander, he was awesome. I'm gonna say he was, and he has a good story arc afterwards. And some might argue that he survived all the way to Return of the Jedi. There is a background rebel trooper who looks a lot like his unhelmeted form as seen in Rebels. I'm going to say Captain Rex is a good character. He is secondary to a lot of other characters, though, so I'm not going to put him any higher than that. And then we'll take Fives, and I don't know Fives' story as well. I know that there was a self-sacrifice involved. I'm assuming this is Fives because it's the only other 501st member I see here. I mean, who's obviously 501st. I see one or two more clones in this pile. I'm going to assume that this is Fives, in which case I'll put him in meh because I don't know him as well. This other clone trooper I don't recognize. So this is a bounty hunter named Embo. Embo was in the Clone Wars. I'll put Embo in meh because I at least know the name, but I don't know anything about him other than the name. It looks like we mainly have big name characters left at this point. Before we get into that, there is the villain. There is the crime lord from the Solo. Let me look up this villain's name real quick. Because he's the last real side character we have. And we've been going 2.5 hours. I did estimate 3 hours for this list. Dryden Voss, the crime lord. Let's take care of Dryden Voss real quick. He's the crime lord from Solo. He's the one who sends Solo on the mission of delivering the coaxium. It is coaxium, right? No. Yeah, I think it's coaxium that they're trying to deliver. So Dryden Voss is the one who actually puts them on the mission that leads to the whole Kessel Run incident. So that's pretty cool. Other than that, he's kind of... And he's not an Imperial officer. He's a crime lord. So that sets him apart from other villains. He's still not as interesting a character as some of the other villains, though. He does kill people for the sake of killing people. He has some combat skills. I'll put him in as a good character. And then we just have... Yeah. It looks like we just have big names left at this point. Well, DJ from Solo. He's the code breaker who betrays them to the First Order. I'm just going to go right out and say this. DJ is a terrible character. He's interesting at first, but then when he sells out Finn and Rose to the First Order, that loses it for me. Now let's get into these big names. Well, we have one more side character here, which is the Grief Karga, the Bounty Hunter Guild administrator from Navarro. In Season 3, he gets a redemption arc and actually rebuilds the town into a peaceful settlement. So Grief Karga is cool. He's got a bit of a cool factor to him. He's got a cool redemption arc. Unfortunately, we won't be seeing any more of him because the actor died after Season 3. And his character was finally starting to get really interesting at that point, and then his actor died before they could make the next part of the story, so we probably won't see him in the movie. We'll probably get mentioned that he had an off-screen death or something. But I'd say with his character development that he shows over the course, I mean, he even participates in the final battle on Mando's side in the first season, even before his full-on redemption arc. I'd say he's definitely a very interesting character. I would put him with the greats, especially on as hostile a world as Navarro is. He's able to rebuild his settlement as a peaceful town with culture by the third season. So yeah, he's a great character. Now, these last few characters here, I think we're gonna see Goat to Amazing blow up here. Let's start with Boba Fett. And if we were ranking this based solely on his appearance in the movies, he would be in GOAT. Great combat ability, cool, mysterious character, blank slate story arc, which gives him that air of mystery. I mean, there's a reason he was rated as one of the top most popular Star Wars characters, even with so little actual plot importance. But yeah, cool, mysterious. He would be GOAT. But then his TV show happened. He's supposed to be the bad guy, and his TV show paints him as someone more sympathetic. Now, he did get spit out of the Sarlacc, so I could understand having a little bit of a redemption arc. But a guy as bad, as merciless as Boba Fett, doesn't turn into that empathetic, sympathetic of a character. Even with having been saved by the Tuskens and all that. We should have seen a little bit more viciousness from him in the Boba Fett show, but he's like full-on good guy in the Boba Fett show. Like, he's trying to rule with respect, and it's like he doesn't kill unless necessary anymore. His whole character, I do appreciate the redemption arc in some ways. It shows that even the baddest, hardest characters can be redeemed with the right circumstances. And as a good guy character in the show, he does lead his town pretty well. And he's even able to lead a fight against the villain army that comes to take over his town. So even as a good guy, he's still a pretty great character. I'm going to say he was GOAT as he appeared in the movies. Post Sarlacc, he does slip to legendary because his character personality like completely changes. But even his new personality is still quite an amazing and awesome character. It's just he doesn't stay GOAT because he changed too much. Both sides of his character are GOAT in their own right. It's just that because he changed as a character so much in such an unbelievable way, he drops to legendary. Which is still the second highest rank, and there's very few characters on that category, so we're good to go. At this point, I'm going to say I'm just doing one more once over the don't knows. This droid is still bugging me. It looks really familiar. I may go back and look up this droid at the end. For most of these characters, I'm not even going to try. But what I will say is for the Bad Batch, I know that they're awesome in terms of what they do in their show. I don't know their names or anything. So I'm going to move the Bad Batch troopers up to good. I'm just doing a quick once over the don't knows to make sure that my rankings are somewhat fair. And then also, this is the pilot from Force Unleashed, Juno Eclipse. She's kind of a cool character, and one of few characters that Galen Merrick is not vicious towards. They actually become something of friends. And the fact that, well, she is his assigned pilot, so of course he's got to treat her well, but because she's on Galen Merrick's good side, I'm gonna say she's a great character, because you don't pilot around a character with that level of strength unless you're truly amazing as a character. So I'm gonna put her with great. So oh, I remember who that is now. I think. Let me look this up because I just had an aha moment. If we're talking about Force Unleashed, then that is, in fact, who I remember it is. I looked it up. We have a successful lookup. This droid is Proxy, Galen Merrick's droid from Force Unleashed. Proxy is trained with lightsaber simulation abilities. Proxy is a lightsaber training droid who is trained with the lightsaber techniques of many historical Jedi and Sith, so that Galen Merrick can practice lightsaber techniques against all sorts of tough opponents. Proxy is also hologram, also has a hologram emitter to appear as those characters that he is imitating. Proxy, because of his unique abilities as a droid, his lightsaber combat, his hologram, I'm going to put him in amazing because of his unique abilities. He can't quite go in legendary because I'm saving legendary for the best of the best, and he's a side character, but amazing is still a fair place to be, I think. Let's do Cassian Andor, the Rogue One captain, rebel spy from his own show. I'm going to come right out and say it. He's an amazing character. He engineered that jailbreak. He's been on many great missions for the rebels. He's a great rebel captain. He leads Jyn Erso's mission in Rogue One. Cassian Andor, nothing short of an amazing character there. Now, let's do BB-8, the ball droid from the sequel trilogy. BB-8 is one character who is portrayed consistently through the entire sequel trilogy. BB-8 has a cute factor. The ball droid mechanic is kind of interesting. I'd say he's a great character. Yeah, BB-8 is pretty great. So BB-8 will go in great. He is just a beeping droid, so he has some great character moments, though. Chopper. The droid from Rebels with a bad attitude. He's been known to outright murder some Imperials. Chopper. Chopper is unique among astronaut. Well, not unique, but unique upon screen. He's unique amongst screen astromechs for his bad attitude against the Imperials. I mean, yeah, this droid is capable of murder. He's an interesting character. I'm gonna put him in. I'm gonna say he's a great character. He's unique among the astromechs. Is this supposed to be Babu Frick, the droid smith from Episode 9? I'm going to assume that this is Babu Frick. The droid. He's an interesting character. He's no longer unique because they've Mandalorian has done his species, so he's actually from a whole race of droid smiths. Still, he has one of the more memorable scenes in Episode 9. He's a one scene wonder, but it's one of few scenes in Episode 9 that I actually liked. So I'm gonna say he's a good character. Now let's just be sure I'm done here. Yeah, I don't recognize any of these other people and don't know, so. For this Night Sister lady, I'm going to say she's a generic Dathomir Night Sister. I don't know who this specific one is as a character, but as a generic, if I'm going to treat her as a generic Dathomir Night Sister, and that way I can rank the Night Sisters as a whole, they get in some pretty interesting magic. I'm going to say they're good characters. They're unique in what they do when it comes to force powers, so I'm going to say the Night Sisters of Dathomir, good. They're a step above regular trooper characters, as we saw before. Alright, now let's get in. And here's the pilot from Rogue One. I forget his name, but he does participate in the battle at the end. It's his tip-off that lets the that's the rebels even learn about the Death Star plans in the first place. So yeah, I'll say he's a good character. He's not memorable enough. I don't remember his name, but yeah, if he didn't do what he did, then the Death Star would be blowing up all the rebel bases, and there would be nothing in the left in the galaxy. And now we have some things where characters are going to be duplicated. So let's do Rey. So Rey is the new Jedi apprentice from the sequel trilogy. She's overpowered. Episode 7 definitely overpowered. She has some cool character moments. I'm gonna say she's a great character. I'm not gonna put her in amazing, because even though some of the things she does in the movies would warrant amazing, she's overpowered. She's not that great written as a character, at least in the first movie. Obviously, giving Palpatine his final death would be enough to put her in GOAT single-handedly, but because of her poor writing in Episode 7 and part of Episode 8, it's just, she's a victim of bad writing, that's all. She's a great character, but I can't really put her any higher the way they wrote her. It's a shame, because her character as it is the kind of character I would want to put in amazing, but I can't. Not the way she was written, because I have to take the character as a whole. Still, she's one of the better characters in the prequel trilogy. I mean the sequel trilogy. Sorry. It's getting late. Sorry. Yeah, she's one of the better characters in the sequel trilogy. Let me... Give me one moment. Alright. That's rough. Okay. Let's finish up these last few. There was just some unfortunate news on my phone that I will address after stream. This is literally all the characters we have left, and they're all big name ones. We're at almost 3 hours. Let's try and power through. Kanan Jarrus from Rebels, the Jedi Master, self-sacrifice, trained Ezra. I'm going to make him a great character. I don't know too much about him otherwise. I haven't finished Rebels. And each of these remaining characters warrants bigger discussion, so we'll do the best we can. We have 3 different iterations of Han Solo on this chart. Han Solo, young, as he appears in the Solo movie. Original trilogy Han Solo, and Force Awakens Han Solo as an old man. Han Solo original trilogy. We're going to go ahead and put him in Legendary. I mean, he is the Han Solo that started it all. Captain of the Millennium Falcon. They're one of the greatest pilots in the galaxy. Great shot with a blaster. Kid Solo. Let's see. Battle of Mimban. Tames Chewbacca after Chewbacca was starved by the Empire and became mostly a feral beast. Han Solo managed to tame Chewbacca and become his friend. Kid Solo also pulled off the Kessel Run. There was that really weird eldritch hyperspace creature, and yeah. Kid Solo is just as legendary as original trilogy Han Solo. Old Man Solo from Force Awakens. Okay, he found Rey and Finn. He helped them infiltrate Starkiller Base. And then he was killed by his own son. The getting killed by his own son part throws me because it's not entirely his fault. But the fact that he went forward to confront his son in the first place, by the Resistance some time. Still, though, man, Old Man Han was just amazing. Original Han and Kid Han are legendary. Old Han is going to be amazing. Now, coming back to our list of characters, we have 3 Landos. Lando also appears. We have original trilogy Han, original trilogy Lando, Solo Lando, and we also have Episode 9 Lando. Original trilogy Lando. Well, Episode 5, he betrays his friends. And he's also administrating a city, which he won in a card game. It's made clear that he doesn't really know how to run the city, though. So, he's got a poor character showing in Episode 5, but a strong redemption arc in Episode 6, where he helps rescue... He infiltrates Jabba's palace as a spy for the rebels, participates in the battle to rescue Han, and then flies the Falcon and leads the rebel space battle over Endor. He's in the lead ship of the space battle over Endor. I'd say he has a pretty solid redemption arc in Episode 6. But that doesn't change how bad he is in Episode 5. So I'd say... But he's also legendary. Even though he betrays his friends, he's still got an interesting character story going on. I'd say he's a great character in the original trilogy. Young Lando from Solo. Where'd he go? He's mostly played as a comic relief character. He does lose the Falcon to Han in a game of Sabacc. And he has a droid girlfriend. Young Solo is kind of silly. He's not well written, but he's written the way he is in order to support the backstory as it needs to come out. for the original trilogy story to maintain accuracy. So he's written within the way he needs to be written, but he's kind of a silly character. I'll say Kid Lando is kind of meh because he's not really that great as a character. Old Lando, he's got some wisdom. He doesn't seem like the betraying type anymore. Definitely helping out the Resistance a lot. And then the whole thing at the end where he's going to help out Vanna and her people. I'd say if Lando started his redemption arc in Return of the Jedi, if he continued on that path to become the man he is in the sequel trilogy, it's clear he's doing some more redemptive things, even if he has gone into retirement. I'm gonna put him with original trilogy Lando at great, just because we don't know what he did in all the off-screen time between Return of the Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. We don't know where he was for those 20 years or so in universe. So he'll tie with the original trilogy, and Kid Lando will still be meh. He hasn't grown into such a great character yet. And here we have a bounty hunter, a droid bounty hunter. And I can't really tell if this is supposed to be IG-88 or IG-11. They're both kind of interchangeable as assassin bounty hunter droids. They're similar models. I'm going to treat this both IG-11 and IG-88 I would put in as good and interesting characters. But I wouldn't put them any higher because they're not too well developed, at least in terms of what I know of them. I know both of them have had extensive backstories written since the source material. So I'm going to use this to function as both IG-11 and IG-88 because I can't tell which one it is, and they're both going to be a good character. Now, let's see. We have a few more characters left here. Let's go ahead and do the Leias. There's two of them. There's old Leia from sequel trilogy and original trilogy Leia. Original trilogy Leia has to go into GOAT. As far as girl power character goes, she participates in all the fights. So, to a degree, I should say. But yeah, she's handy with a blaster. She's good at negotiation. There's a reason why, even as young as she is, she's one of the big rebel leaders. Leia is legendary and can join Chewbacca in GOAT. Now, old Leia continues. Career badass tends to stay that way. Old Leia commands the Resistance. She's part of the New Republic, but even with the New Republic and the Resistance, not really doing well together. She still fights for the Resistance. She has that whole surviving floating in space thing, which some would say detracts from the character. I say, well, let her have her moment. I mean, what's not to like about old Leia? Just keep the character arc going. There is no entry for Kid Leia from Solo. Kid Leia from Obi-Wan, I should say. Kid Leia from Obi-Wan, I'd probably put into great. Maybe good. Because she's learning all that diplomatic stuff, but she's not quite a fighter yet. And she still needs Obi-Wan to rescue her a lot. She doesn't function well solo as a character. She gets captured pretty easily by those pirates. So, Kid Leia, if there was an entry, I would just put her in good. But original trilogy Leia and sequel trilogy Leia can stay in GOAT. Let's talk about Mando. Din Djarin, the Mandalorian. He was a bounty hunter. Then he meets Grogu and decides he's going to become Grogu's new dad. And then he becomes a good guy with a whole redemption arc. And then he helps to redeem Mandalore from Moff Gideon and the Imperials. So he's instrumental in recovering the Mandalorian culture. He starts off. He starts off. He starts off as a bounty hunter, but has this whole character arc where he now becomes one of the saviors of Mandalore. So he's. And let's face it, his merchandise campaign also brought in a lot of money for Disney. Well, would you really call that heroics? I mean, if a company's making a lot of money off of it. What do I say? He's definitely... Where did I put Grogu? He would definitely be at least as high as Grogu. Wow, all the characters are bleeding together. Where's Grogu? So it looks like I put Grogu in... So Grogu I put into great. So Mando is what Din Djarin is what made Grogu who he is. So he's at least amazing. But I'd go so far as to put, but because Mando, because of Mando's role in reuniting Mandalore, I'd go so far as to move him all the way up to legendary. So 2 ranks higher than Grogu. Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, is that legendary of a character that he belongs in legendary. All right, coming back to this list, we just have some big names left here. R2-D2. He's the droid who's been there for all 9 movies. He's seen the whole saga. He saw the fall of the Republic. He saw the Empire. He saw the New Republic. He's still around for the Resistance and the First Order. I mean, R2-D2's been there for everything. Yeah, he was asleep for a while, but... And not only has he been around for everything, they've never called for him to have a memory wipe, which means he has, of all the droids, he has the most comprehensive history in his memory banks of galactic politics from late Republic all the way up to First Order. And he can somewhat hold his own in a fight with his flamethrower, jetpack, and other tools. He's good at hacking computers. Well, that's kind of what droids do. He's an amazing co-pilot. I mean, well, that's what it's designed to do. But R2-D2, when it comes to droids, he's a goat. All right, we'll come back here. We have Anakin, and we have Vader. Anakin, Jedi Master, whiny but skilled, talented. We are going to put Anakin in legendary for his Clone Wars heroics. Yes, personality is a little lacking, but he makes up for it with awesome fight. If we had Kid Anakin would go in meh, or maybe good. Kid Anakin is sympathetic, and the whole pod racing thing. Now, if there was Kid Anakin, we'd probably move him to great because of the whole pod racing and single-handedly saving Naboo thing. But Vader, the other side of Anakin. Probably the most iconic villain in cinematic history. Legendary. Pretty much all other Star Wars villains that came after Vader are compared with Vader. How are they as a character compared with Vader? Vader is legendary. He's probably the most iconic villain in movie history. Vader, he's intimidating, menacing. Yeah, not much personality other than I will destroy you. But still. And that creepy breathing. He's all around menace. And then he has that really nice scene in episode 6 when he finally sees the light again. Really touching scene. And yeah. Vader is a goat. He's a goat for all the wrong reasons, but he is a goat. Coming back here, we have Luke. We have original trilogy Luke, who is one of the greatest character arcs of all time. And I'm going to say original trilogy Luke joins his father Vader and his sister Leia in GOAT. Yeah, he's a little whiny in the first movie, but then from there, and he has his faults. All characters do. Even Leia has faults. But when it comes down to it, he's a great leader of the fight. He's an amazing and talented Jedi. We just passed the 3-hour mark of stream, and we just have a couple characters left here. So, original trilogy Luke, for who he is and what he represents and his character development, definitely a GOAT. And then we come to sequel trilogy Luke. And sequel trilogy Luke throws his lightsaber away and doesn't care about the Jedi anymore. Granted, there's that history where his attempt to rebuild the Jedi Order was destroyed, but still, Luke, what he represents in the original trilogy, completely thrown away in the sequel trilogy. I'm going to say sequel trilogy Luke drops all the way to terrible character. It's not his fault. It's bad writing. But still, sequel trilogy Luke, terrible character. But totally destroys the legacy of original trilogy Luke, who is one of very few GOATs on this list. Yeah. Maul. Darth Maul in episode 1, just Maul in his other appearances. So in episode 1, he's intimidating, cool, menacing, great combat ability. He's a great fighter. He is, on episode 1 alone, he is amazing. But then you look, he actually survived being cut in half. We see him again in Clone Wars and again in Rebels. In Clone Wars, he actually takes over Mandalore. And in Rebels, by the time of Solo, he's the leader of a crime syndicate. And then he dies in Rebels a little bit later. So, even after leaving the Sith, he becomes the leader of Mandalore and the leader of a big crime syndicate before finally getting defeated. And he has a new TV show I haven't watched yet, so I don't know what he does in the new show. But I hear he does some pretty cool stuff in there too. So Maul is going to go into legendary for me. I mean, he still manages to get killed twice. Well, functionally killed twice. Obviously, he didn't die in episode 1. But what we see from him is, if you only watch the 9 movies, he died in episode 1. So we actually see him die on screen twice, and both times are by the same man, Obi-Wan. And finally, we come to the final character here, Ahsoka. So yeah, this group did not include Skeleton Crew. I'll probably just voice my rankings real quick on that, because I like Skeleton Crew. We'll skip Acolyte. But Ahsoka. A cute, cool character from Clone Wars, but then becomes one of the wiser. She's not a Jedi anymore after leaving the Jedi Order, but she still carries the Jedi ideals. She basically represents what the Jedi should be if they were strictly following their ideals. She's no longer with the Jedi. Post Clone Wars, she's not with the Jedi anymore, but she's upholding their legacy, and she's the closest thing that the Jedi have to an Old Order Jedi who's actually purely following the code for the code. All good. She manages to get white lightsabers, I like her dual wielding style, which is rare among Jedi. So great fighting talents, great wisdom, and the fact that she's not officially part of the Jedi Order means that she can get involved with things that the Jedi wouldn't normally concern with. So she's more useful and helpful than some of the Jedi characters. Um, let's let's have Ahsoka join Leia with Goat Girl power here, and we'll put Ahsoka and Goat there. So yeah, there's our tier list. We're out of characters finally. Um, so yeah, so if I scroll here, you can see all of Goat, Legendary, Amazing, and Great. Good, meh, terrible, and don't know represent the bottom half of our selection. But for the exit screen, I'll leave us on. And shoot, do we? Okay, so we lose Anakin behind the droid cam. So sorry about that. You know what? Let me bump someone up to hide behind Anakin. To hide behind the droid cam so you can see Anakin where he goes. We can't, in order to have this fit on screen, we can't see anything from good or lower. So let's bump up Aunt Beru into Legendary, not because she's Legendary, but so that she can go behind the droid cam. Oh no, we just, whatever I did just fixed things, I think. No, we have to scroll it there, so. Yeah, you can still see Mando, so we've put Aunt Beru behind the droid cam there, so that Anakin can be bumped and you can see him in Legendary. Aunt Beru is not Legendary; she stays in Good, but I just bumped her up so that we can see the full Legendary row behind the droid cam, if that makes any sense. So our top 3 rankings here. For Amazing, we have Cal Kestis, Enfys Nest, Cara Dimway, Wedge Antilles, Count Dooku, Chancellor Palpatine, Ezra Bridger, Qui-Gon Jinn, Admiral Thrawn, Dedra Meero, Mon Mothma, Darth Malak, Padme Amidala, Grand Moff Tarkin, Proxy, Cassian Andor, and Old Man Han Solo. For Legendary, we have Old Man Obi-Wan Kenobi, C-3PO, Admiral Akbar, Galen Merrick, the Starkiller, Darth Revan, Yoda, Boba Fett, Han Solo Original Trilogy, Kid Han Solo, Din Djarin the Mandalorian, Anakin Skywalker, and Darth Maul. And for GOAT, we have Ahsoka Tano, Chewbacca Original Trilogy and Sequel Trilogy Leia, R2-D2, Darth Vader, and Luke Skywalker Original Trilogy. And then I'm not going to read aloud great because there's a lot of them there. But let's scroll down and you can see up to great on the exit screen here. So yeah, how's that looking? We are a little... Let me see if I can line up the borders a little bit better here. Yeah, so there is our exit screen. You can see the top 4 ranks there. There's a lot of characters in great. Which is the bottom rank showing on our exit screen. Yeah, there's 47 characters in Great, so that might be our most represented field. Anyway, let me go see who we have to raid tonight, since we just passed the 3-hour mark of stream. Brett is on tonight, so we'll go ahead and raid him. So let's raid Brett. Oh yeah, we're raiding Brett, friend of the channel. He is playing a game called Dungeon Gals. I haven't seen his streams on that up to this point, so I'm not sure what that game is about. But we're raiding Brett. Normally I raid music, but if Brett's on, we raid him. So have a good night, and I will see you on Saturday when we will do the second Lego Star Wars Week stream. I have a special stream planned for Saturday with some Star Wars Lego. Have a good night, and may the Force be with you. Good night.
Oh, hey, somebody did something. Somebody raided. I can't see who it is. Welcome, raiders. Oh, it's Evie. What's up, dude? How you doing? And you're just in time for Salem Can, the most popular part of the stream.